Okay.
So
So
this is fun. You got a nice little split screen arrangement here. I guess you're screen sharing on the left, and then you got your camera set up. That's good.
yeah. I have the split thing in the camera. I also have the manual if we need to show that, but I think we should be good to go. So
if you send me, can you send me the manual, and then I can just have it on my phone.
Oh yeah.
And then you won't have to flash it on screen very often if I'm just reading it straight from my phone.
Okay, we'll send it to you right away. There it goes. Cool. So, hello everyone. We're starting. Today we'll be calibrating this monitor that I recently just RGB modded. It's JVC TMA101G. Yeah, that's the model. It looks great, but we need to calibrate, and I have the monoscope man himself, Kid, in here. He's been really nice and wanted to join and show us how he does his wizardry. So
what I can.
Yeah, no, to be honest, you've been so helpful all of the time that I've been there. So it's really cool to have you.
I try, I do my best because people will ask an interesting question and I'll be like, I know the answer to that. Give me a second to type it down. I'm like, ah, crap, I'm at work. I should probably not do that.
Yeah, I work as a software engineer, so yeah, that's basically my life, like jumping between stuff I should be doing, and I shouldn't.
You got time to ask questions on Discord because you're waiting for stuff to compile. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah. Sadly, my compilations aren't that long. I don't work on C, so but I still have some compiling time. Cool. So let me ask you this. How do you usually start? Do you start by doing geometry or colors?
That's a good question. I would probably at least get just a sort of generic peak white set. We want to make sure we're not driving the deflection circuit really hard with a high peak white. Otherwise it's not going to be able to draw a straight line.
Exactly.
So I would say let's just start by running just the standard grayscale, just run the whole thing and let's just see where it's at, right? Let's see how what the problems are,
right?
And then we'll go from there.
Cool. So just
I don't know if you got your where's your colorimeters? Not in the way of the screen yet, that's for sure.
Yeah, I actually wanted to just give a quick introduction for people that haven't calibrated a monitor before. So you can do geometry, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you can do geometry basically just by eye and using a ruler with your monoscope and getting the ratio right. But to do color properly, you will need a colorimeter, and particularly one that can do refresh based screens. So, I didn't. I can't show it on screen. It's too since it's set to not.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Yeah, you don't have a front light.
Yeah,
it's gonna be kind of hard to show it off. But which one did you buy?
Yeah, that works. Okay, so I bought the Color Monkey.
Oh, good. That's the one I have. Good job.
Yeah, and that's the one that Dan recommended. So I said, okay, let's not mess with the spiders and all of that. That couldn't work probably. So I got that one for about, I think, $90 here locally in Chile. For some reason, someone had one of these. and it can do. I think it can do pretty much every screen. I think it can do even OLEDs.
I think it could probably do. That's a good question because I'm not sure what its peak white limit is. It's
Right.
going to be slow on the low end, right? And I don't know what the right workflow is because I've got an OLED now and I've got the same colorimeter, and I've wondered whether or not it's even worth trying. I know on the low end, the sort of sub 20 IRE measurements, they just take longer with that Color Monkey. It's just an older piece of equipment, so it's a little slow. It'll still get you a reading. And so if you've got time to burn on those low-end measurements, it's going to be fine for that. But I don't know what its high-end limit is. I've accidentally measured, over 200 nits on CRTs, that were set improperly. Something I'd just taken delivery on that I was working on for somebody or something, and it's just a nightmare. And there's a couple of different CRTs where you actually have to do the white balance by turning the contrast all the way up and then doing a setting and then turning the contrast all the way down and doing a different setting, and you have to do that back and forth.
Yeah.
You can't even use like the grayscale patterns. It doesn't work. Like, it will not end up good. You actually just have to send it a 100 IRE pattern and turn the contrast way up, do a measurement and an adjustment, and then turn the contrast all the way down. And so you're swinging from 14 nits up to 270 or something, So I know it can read, maybe the limit's 300, maybe the limit's 400. Dan probably knows what the limit is. I don't know. But I assumed that one probably can't do 1,000, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It probably can't do 700. I'm not going to be able to do the HDR implementation. Even if color HDFR can do it, I don't think that a sensor can take that much brightness. So I just haven't bothered. Not yet.
Right.
I'm confident that the one that's good enough, the sort of mid-tier and the high tier, of either the X-Rights that are discontinued now or the new Color Brights, they're like $200 something, $300 something. And I was like, well, we'll just put that on the pile of $300 things I can't afford right now.
Exactly. I mean, $300 can get you a pretty good PVM.
It can sometimes. Yeah.
Yep. Well, definitely. The prices there on the States are going crazy right now. Like the L5's going for $3,000, $4,000. But yeah,
I would like. I don't even know what to say because I've actually sat down and calibrated a handful of L5s now, and it's so complicated. I guarantee you, none of them are right.
Oh wow.
Unless it was somebody like Pat, and I would love to sit down and talk to him on his, workflow, to see kind of what he does. I'm sure it's great, but I've pulled L5s out of sort of studios and AV departments at universities, stuff like that. They're even at government office buildings.
Wow.
In other states, stuff like that. They're all a nightmare. I have to start over from scratch. They cannot be trusted at all. And so for someone to spend $3,000 on an L5 that hasn't been calibrated is bananas.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Well, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that because the L5 is praised as they were the last series.
No, they're nice. But it takes me, I don't know, 2 solid days to do one.
Wow. Okay.
If you want to get every single input, with a good grayscale in 6500K and 9300K for 480i, 480p, 720p, 1080i, at least in NTSC. And if some psychopath wants to pay double, maybe I'll do PAL for them. But
Yeah, that's
And it
interesting.
saves separate geometry settings for every single resolution. So you have you set your geometry for 480i, and when you go to 480p, you have to do it again. And when you go to 720p, you have to
That's
do it again.
right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So
Yeah.
it's an unbelievable amount of work.
Yeah, and I already had enough with like one monitor when you have to calibrate um for the two different color schemes. You
Yeah.
have to then do the offset. That for me, that's like okay, that's enough for me. So I can only imagine what it's like to do an L5.
Well, I'll tell you, it's not worth doing for free.
Definitely.
I mean, I think I did the first one just like,
Yeah,
you
to
know,
just learn
to
what
learn.
part.
It's like, what is going on with this thing? Like, how nice can it get? And I'll tell you, it can get really nice. However, if anyone says it's calibrated and I haven't touched it, it's not calibrated.
Right. Yeah, you can trust unless
Except for, like I said, except for Pat. But like, I've had a couple of nice email conversations with Pat. Some people say it's better to call him and just sort of corner him on the phone, and he gets more chatty. But I don't know him well enough to bother him, and sometimes I have nonsense questions. So
yeah, no,
I don't
I
know him
get
as
that.
well as I would like to. Let's say that.
Yeah, yeah, it's well, to be honest, it was the same for me. Like, should I bother Keith? He surely is like occupied with other stuff, but that's why
Right, you caught me with the family out of town, so
perfect timing.
it's a lot easier for me to just shut. Like I can be in here and we can do this, and I'm not ignoring some other part of my life right now because
Right.
I'm just, it's totally fine. All
Well,
right.
synchronicity, I guess. Cool. So I guess let's get this started. I have
Yeah.
the color
Yeah. Go
monitor
ahead.
on the
Yeah.
screen. That's
Mhm.
the I guess rhomboid shadow that you can
Right.
see in there.
Can you
And
click on the references button? So let's look and see how you got this thing configured.
right.
The one that's on the right-hand side underneath the recycle bin.
Yep. Oh, I think it's not going to
That
show on
guy.
stream. That's let me see if I can do something about that, because you have to like set the window that you're going to show.
Oh, because it's a pop-up window. It won't show up.
Yeah.
Right. It's not your
Here.
whole desktop.
Okay, I can do. Okay, so you should be
Oh,
able
there
to
we go.
see that.
Okay.
So,
All right.
and I can make it big. So
601, D65, display gamma. I'd like to see if I can find. I've been toying with this process of using 2.3 gamma as
okay.
this weird. Like, I've had conversations with some of the guys on the Discord. They've pulled information from different sources that all seem to suggest that the natural gamma curve of a tube is 2.3 or even 2.35. And so I've been using 2.3 as a sort of baseline. That way, when you aim for 2.3, you might end up at 2.2. You know what I mean? Because if you aim for 2.2, you might end up at 2.1. And that's a little too bright. And if you, like I said, if you aim for 2.3 and you end up at 2.2, all you really have to do to get to 2.4 for like if you're gonna watch a movie, not that you're gonna watch a movie on this little guy, but you just be able to change the brightness control to get it down to 2.4.
Just bump it a little bit. Yeah.
So display gamma power law is fine, but you can change the power law window where your pointer's right next to 2.3.
Yeah.
And I bet it's probably going to be okay. But I'm still looking through your service manual.
Yeah, that's interesting. And
other than that, I think you're fine. You can hit apply. And we're going to go to the advanced tab as well.
Oh, let's go to advanced. So just a quick question. So gamma in my head, I remember the first time I saw the word gamma being used was on Doom. Like you could change the gamma, and to me that was like, oh, it's brightness, but I think it's really like the range of brightness and colors that the monitor is
sort
going
of
to show.
it's sort of the relationship between how dark your monitor can get and how bright it's set.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else is going to have a much better explanation for it than I can give you right now. But I can tell you, when you see all that stuff like on PC games, that's supposed to be a quote-unquote gamma control. Part of that might be because in a PC environment, the computer, like you would have your monitor set in sRGB mode, and it's governed completely by the computer instead of having an independent calibration. I actually just got an NEC multi-sync PC monitor. CRT. It's a 990. It's like the shadow mask.
Oh, nice.
It seems like a nice monitor. Like, it can go up to like 1600 by 1200. And it has a manual 9300K mode, but if you want 6500K, it's only sRGB. It locks all the controls, and you have to do the calibration completely from the computer. So I use like the software that comes with the Color Monkey that you don't use.
Yeah.
You can use it. Works fine to do an sRGB calibration where it builds a LUT for your video card. Like, if you have a PC monitor, and you use the Color Monkey and that software on your main PC for your main like PC monitor, and it's sRGB and everything's locked, it'll work. It's fine. So I think that's what some of that stuff means when you see that, especially in old games and stuff like that. The gamma control was part of that sRGB control scheme.
Yeah, like especially.
I could be wrong. Dan's probably like ready to strangle me at this point, but that's okay.
Not sure if he is on the chat already. He said he would drop by probably. So we might get a message or
I have to let's look, because ever since I started chatting with him, like, I want to say 2 years ago, I can't remember how long it's been since he posted that first video where I watched his very first couple of YouTube videos about color calibration, and he said, "You could just buy this thing," and I was like, "I'll go buy it, no problem."
And that was the start of it all.
So now, well, then I realized he's in Australia, and I was like, I can't. What time is it in Australia? I can't just send him random texts at like 2 a.m. That's rude. So I actually have my world clock with near him in Australia, so I don't accidentally text him at 2 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
It's 7:30 in the morning there, so he's probably having coffee.
Exactly.
That's good. Perfect.
Yeah. So I think we have a question for you in the chat.
Yes.
Not sure if you want to read it yourself, or should I read it for you?
Well, I think I made a mistake when I went full screen, and all I can see is your video feed. I don't see the chat.
Yeah.
Let's see. What does it say? Let's see a color. Being guides, whatever. I have not written anything up yet. I mean,
well,
I think if we do a handful of these with different people online, maybe someone else can write it up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was thinking, if this goes well, if I don't screw up anything.
Got a Color Monkey display for the reason to use on my BVM. Oh God, which BVM is it? I'm going to end up very soon. I'm not sure when, but I'm going to end up with a BVM 1310 and eventually a 1910, which is like the original BVM. Like, it's all fiddly knobs, right? It's got the pull-out drawer, and like all of the settings in there are like little trim pots, and you have to take the back off, and it's all trim pots back there, and it's the service manual for it's 300 pages long.
Oh my God.
And I was like, this is the ultimate fiddly bits. Like, I can't wait to even attempt to calibrate that thing.
Yeah.
14F5U. Oh yeah.
Here so the guy that sells me the good stuff here in Chile has a really old BVM. Well, he has a lot of really old, like, black and white stuff and really interesting stuff, but he had I think it was 1936 or 1336, something like that. And it was really interesting, and it did look good, but I could tell, like, yeah, that's not something I want to get into. It seems like super high maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I got into this in the first place was that I currently own a 2530.
Oh,
That was
okay.
the first PVM that I got, and I got it off of a guy in Louisville, Kentucky. He had 4 that he bought from a government, auction or something, and he probably paid jack for them. Like
Yeah.
40 or 50 bucks a piece or something crazy 12 years ago. And or even longer, because that's when I got it from him. I would say 12, 13, 14 years ago. And I traded him the 2530 for my CDI Zelda games.
Okay.
That's it. Like, they were only worth like 50 bucks 15 years ago. Nobody cared. They were the worst games ever made. And I got a PVM out of it. So I thought it was a pretty good deal. And those are actually probably valuable now. He may have gotten a better deal, but I still like that monitor. But I knew deep down, once I got it, I was like, I'm going to have to learn how to take care of this. It's like I just adopted a new hobby, which is learning how to deal with this thing.
Yeah.
So it's been a long process getting to the point where, I could take the back off and not think I was going to die.
Yeah, exactly. Like the first time,
which only
for
happens.
me,
It only happens on
really
2030s.
scary.
The 2030s are the ones that try to kill you. The 2530s are much nicer.
Yeah. The first one that I think I discharged was a consumer, the KB310.
Did it actually spark when you discharged it?
No.
I've never had one. I've never had one actually spark when I took the cap off.
Yeah.
Now, I had not turned it on recently, so that helps. But most of the PVMs have a bleeder resistor, so like I've never had an issue with it.
Yeah.
Though I'll also admit to pulling the main board out, leaving it connected to the tube via the flyback transformer, and recapping it just like that. No problem.
Oh my god. Wow. That's
Just hanging out. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
Not that I've ever had. Everyone's like, I gotta change a cap. How do I discharge the tube? I'm like, you don't have to do that. You can just change the cap. Maybe disconnect your power supply and drain that to ground. Those big boys might need to be.
Yeah, definitely. I'm now.
I wouldn't mess with the power supply.
Yeah.
After it's been freshly energized. But the like even the high voltage caps in the deflection circuit aren't that big.
Right.
Like I've gotten worse scares touching a 2030 than I have recapping anything with the flyback still hooked up.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I'm more scared of power supplies, especially. Well, I do a lot of tinkering, and I built my own 3D printer, and I had to do the all of the wiring and the power and all of that stuff. And one night at like 2 a.m., I was trying to debug an issue with the power supply, and my probe slipped just for a second, and it shorted to the case of the power supply from like positive to the case. And oh my god, that was so scary. It basically welded the probe to the to the case of the power supply. So yeah, I'm more scared of power supplies than the tubes, to be honest.
Yeah. All right. So, on this page, the one thing I like to point out, and I've mentioned it in chat before, is the color difference formula.
Okay.
It's on recommended. I don't even know what they mean by the recommended. I'm sure they're assuming. See, that's the thing about Color HDFR is that it was designed. The guys who wrote this software built it for calibrating HD TVs to watch Blu-rays on, like, or maybe DVDs on a projector. It goes back that far, maybe, but still, like, not that old. So what's in the drop-down box? Let's see what it's got.
Oh, it's actually not showing. That's, well, I will have to read it to you because I don't think I
Okay.
can show
It's
it on
not
the
showing.
stream. Yeah,
So I was
so
looking at your service manual. This monitor, at least the manual,
Mhm.
was from December 2001.
Mhm.
And so the color difference formulas, I usually try to match to the era of the monitor, presuming that they designed it around a certain color difference formula.
Oh, okay. That's
This one was
interesting.
built in 2001. You could make an argument that it was ready to be compatible with the, what does that say, CIE or 2000?
2000? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's
But you could
CMC and
also
Mhm.
probably try the 94, which
Okay.
is probably, it's going to be one or the other. I think if you wanted to have an experiment, you could run the grayscale in 94, and then, or actually, that's the thing. Most of that color difference stuff is going to be for the bigger patches if you're going to do like the full tilt boogie.
Okay.
But I think 94 is probably a safe bet. I don't know exactly when this monitor came out. If it was just, if
Oh,
it came out in 2001, then you could make a case for saying use the 2001.
mm-hmm.
But if it came out in like 98 and this is just the 2001 version of it, then
I don't think so because the monitor, my particular one, was made on 2006, so I don't
okay.
think they would go
Yeah, so
that
let's do
long.
2000.
Yeah.
Let's do the color difference 2000, and that'll probably be the way to go.
Mhm.
So like if I do like a 40 series or a 30 series from the 80s, I have to go all the way back to the CIE 76.
Yeah, I saw that, and I thought for a moment, is that referring to the year, like 76
Oh yeah,
and
it's
94?
referring to the year that the because they're like whatever international group that gets together to decide all this crap. They met in like 76 and made a decision, and then they did that again in 1994. They did it again in 2000. Interesting note. You know how we think about like high definition television, a 720p 1080i broadcast as something that was new, something that came out in, like 2000, 2001, depending on where you're at in the country or where you're at in the world, like that rollout. Obviously Japan had it earlier. They were doing high definition analog broadcasts even earlier than that.
Yeah.
But the international negotiations for the targets, like we're going to aim for this sort of like thing, when they sort of agreed upon what HD was going to look like, those meetings were in the late 60s and the early 70s.
Wow.
And it took them 30 years to build the machines that could actually do what they had agreed upon. 20 years for Japan.
Wow.
So
that's very interesting.
Yeah. Same thing for 4K and 8K. That's something that's happening now, the last few years. That technology has gotten cheap enough that you can just go to the store and buy a 4K TV. It's not that big of a deal. But that standard was negotiated internationally back in
a long time
2001,
ago.
2002. I remember hearing the original announcement for 8K in 2003.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
a long time. Yeah. I guess. VR was the same thing. They were really old VR kits, and they didn't have the technology to do that until, well, they still can't do it right, I guess.
Yeah. I have a news like a newsletter, from someone, like a self-published thing from an old author, sci-fi author. He was sort of like wrote a bunch of different novels, but he also wrote a bunch of like philosophy stuff too. And his newsletter, he published a story about virtual reality in 1986 or 87.
Wow.
Something like that. I'd have to go find the news. I collected all the old newsletters, so I've got it. But it's they've been talking about it for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's changed name, but Plato, I remember him talking about basically that same kind of thing, like with other words. But yeah, like basically transporting yourself or your consciousness into a different reality has been like a thing that we wanted to do. I really wanted to do that for racing games, and it turns out I can't stand the nausea, like the motion sickness.
Oh, it's not good enough yet?
Yeah, it's not good enough, definitely. So
Right,
I will have to
the
wait
car's
another
moving
20
at a certain
years.
speed, and your like the tick rate for your head when you're turning your head is like not good enough.
Yeah, it's super, and it feels super like weird. Your body is screaming like, "What the hell is happening here?" Your stomach is going like all different directions.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
All right,
still
so
some time to wait.
let's
for
apply
that.
this, and let's run the grayscale. Let's see what happens.
Cool. Let's see.
Have you done any prep work on this thing? Like, there's stuff in the service manual about the basic settings before you do anything. Have you done any of that?
No, I haven't touched it at all.
Okay.
So I need
Let's
to
just see
make
what
sure I'm in the right display. Just a second here.
And what's your signal chain from your PC to this monitor, since I see Windows Desktop?
Yeah, I'm using CRT emu drivers.
Oh yeah.
Oh well, the big issue with that is that all of your monitors are called the same, so you don't know which one it is. But
I know. I know the way I set mine up. It came up as generic non-plug and play monitor, which actually helped a lot.
Yeah, every monitor for me says like generic PMP. So let's see if this is the right one, and it is. Oh, that's
white.
nice. Okay,
good.
So that is black. So what's happening on the screen right now? It's going through, go through patches of, right now, a grayscale, right? So the first one is going to take the longest because of the sensors. We talked about that. And I guess it's, how would you put it? It's just going to measure the different, like the composition of the colors, right?
Right. Well, you got the electrons hitting the phosphors at a certain intensity, right? The red, green, and blue phosphors are going to glow at different intensities based on how the electron gun's hitting them. And it's going to measure the relationship between how strong red, green, and blue are. And based on your target white point, which is D65, it knows the correct ratio of red, green, and blue to get there. And you're right. So
not that great.
Well, it's not terrible. Like what is the Y measurement for 0? Because it's a little blurry on screen.
Yeah, it's 0.01.
0.01's a little low, but that's okay. And the fact that 10 IRE is in the green suggests that your screen resistor is probably set correctly.
That's good. Basically,
I think so.
Yeah, I have to thank, I guess, Immerhacks for that, because he did the whole calculations for the input signal conditioning for the RGB mod. So that's awesome. Thank you, Immerhacks, again.
Right. Now it's like it's a little dim on the low end, so we're gonna have to figure out. So at the top of the screen where the measurements are, so you have your 10 through 100. You start off in the green, you have some stuff in the yellow, the rest of it's in the red. The very bottom line, if you go to 100 IRE and you go to the very bottom cell,
right?
That's
the target, right? We are on.
Well, you have your actual measurement.
38.
Yeah, your actual measurement is Y. It's above the red, and then the Y target for 100 IRE. That's always going to be the same number, because no matter what that number changes to, it's the actual measurement, and it's the basis for the entire Y target string.
Right.
So, so it's interesting that this is 138, which is a little hot. It's not the end of the world, but these smaller tubes tend to run brighter.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like it goes hard. I have the daddy of this one on the side, like the 150 CG, and it's definitely like tamer.
See. A lot of the time when you have these similar chassis CRTs, like the circuitry's basically the same, it's just the size of the tube. It's the same voltages. So, it'll say, and I've seen it on like the 50s and the M series and the L series for that matter. It's the same basic circuit. It's either the 14-inch tube or the 20-inch tube, and it's just because the 20-inch tube is bigger, you're applying the same voltage to a larger surface area, and it's just going to be darker. Oh. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah.
Otherwise the circuit's almost identical.
Yeah.
So you apply roughly the same voltage to two different size tubes, the bigger tube's going to be darker.
That makes sense. I mean, that's also, I guess, why they do the whole modular card for PVMs, like different cards that they reuse, swap, or maybe take off some of the parts for one model and put them in the other. So yeah, that makes sense. So there is one thing that I want to just quickly touch on for people that have never done this. So when you're calibrating, basically you want to aim for a low delta E, and that's basically you always want to have it below 2. Is that correct?
If it gets below 2 or at 2, I think it's in the green.
Okay.
And so that's good. I think if you're between 1 and 2, you could only tell the difference if a color's correct or not if you have it right next to the correct color.
Okay.
But it's not going to be so wrong that you would notice it just looking at it. Right. But if you had absolutely correct and something between 1 and 2 right next to each other, you could spot it. Anything below 1, I think, is beyond your eyeball's ability to discern the differences. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to go crazy, like we can get below 1 on all of it.
Right, but there's not much point.
Sometimes there's limitations to the circuit too. Like it's just like if you get it below 2, if it's all green and it looks good to you, leave it alone. Like just move on. You're done. You won.
Yeah, exactly. And we're probably going to see some of that, like getting to some compromises. Okay, we're not going to get the 0.1 on this value, but we're going to be able to get to below 2 on another.
You can pimp out like an L5, right? You can expect to get to the point where everything's below 0.5 if you want to put the work in. Like if you want to be crazy. But you're not going to achieve that on like an 80-20. Or like some janky, or like a PVM 1910 or something like that. Like a really old monitor.
Yeah, definitely. And like even on nicer PVMs, it's hard to get everything perfect, especially like when you go with the what do they call it in here, the full tilt boogie. There's always going to be some colors that are going to be off, and you're going to need to compromise unless you have the like you said, the BVM. Or
if you wanted to do like if you wanted to run the primaries and secondaries test, we can see what it looks like.
Okay. So should we? I guess we can just
not that one, the next one.
Yeah, that one. Okay. So now we're doing the same thing, but not grayscale, with colors, and
we'll see kind of where it ends up.
Yeah.
And these numbers will look kind of janky at first because it has to read the white and black before it actually calculates the accuracy. So they may snap into place after it's done.
Okay, so yellow's good, magenta is good, blue is kind of good.
Yeah, it looks like you're running a little crooked on green, I think.
Yeah.
Red's just always going to be strong. It's always going to run a little hot. But yeah, it's probably not bad. Well, we'll get the grayscale under control, and these numbers will improve a little bit.
Yeah.
But you see where your green primary is off from its target on the triangle?
Exactly.
That is a color purity issue. Like, I mean,
Okay.
you'll never really fix that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get a look at that later. If we do like a blow up of the CIE diagram,
Mm-hmm.
you could make it. Yeah, no, it'll be fine. I think this is still. I was looking at the manual. This is still a Rec 601 sort of just NTSC kind of guy. Yeah, NTSC 358. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be the a Rec 709 thing, right? It's
Right.
not. I've seen that mistake. Somebody measures it and green's off and red's off, but blue's perfect, and you're like, "What's wrong?" It's like, you should be doing this in Rec 709. That's what it is. And they switched to Rec 709 to scan it again, and everything's fine. But this is actually like a little. There's a little. The green. When the gun hits the green phosphor, it's off just a little bit, and it's touching the blue phosphor with the green signal. So
that makes sense. I actually never thought about it like that, but that makes complete sense. Like, yeah, that's how.
sometimes you can fix that with an external degaussing coil, because it might just be that the deflection yokes picked up some weird thing, and it's just throwing stuff off, and it's not anything inside the CRT that's going to fix it. Like, you just have to hit basically like the big fat reset button with a giant, degaussing coil, and that'll clean it up. Sometimes that'll fix it. Sometimes it is just, it's going to be a little wonky and tough.
Cool.
Especially if you have smaller, like older, like really old stuff, or like low end stuff. Like, you're not going to fix that like on a 20N1 U or something.
Yeah, no, and the bigger it
Like
gets,
a
the harder
security
it
monitor or
gets.
something. Like, it's the cheapy ones, you're just not going to fix it. Like, stop trying. It's okay. It's not going to look that bad. You'll be okay.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, we're not doing, like, we're playing games on this. We're not doing color grading or something like that. So
no.
we don't.
You want it to look,
consistent,
as good as it can.
basically.
Yeah, and you want it to be consistent. Yeah, you don't want like red shadows and blue highlights. You don't, or whatever can go wrong when you have a bad grayscale, which all kinds of things can go wrong.
Right.
So, Jesus, we need to. So let's go back to the grayscale.
Okay.
Because I was concerned that your peak white was like 138, but your low end was too low. And so we need to figure out kind of what your brightness is set at. And if it's at the sort of default value, then whatever this thing has that's similar to sub-bright may need to be changed.
Okay.
So we'll have to see what what it expects you to do.
Right. So I guess here is another part that I got some questions about. So how do you get to the, like, where you want to on the menus? On most PDMs there are like service menus. There are like hidden, you could say, non-user facing menus.
Yeah.
And
from the 50 series up. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and in this monitor and in most JVCs, you get it by pressing the menu and the volume up until you get, let's see, whoop, pressing the wrong thing in there. There, I get an S on the top, and then I should push the chroma button, and it says please don't touch, but you need to touch it. So then you get this menu here, and
there's your deflection.
We have the deflection and the signal block and the white balance, and all of that is what we're going to use to basically tweak the colors and basically just the electron guns. So what should we go for first? I guess white point?
Yeah, let's look at that.
Okay, so I'm guessing it's the white balance block. So we have W1 and W5. Let's see what's on W1. Well, so with service menus, I get here like W01, and there's no like indication. So
It's
you
nice.
have to.
You have to have the manual in order to know what's
Yeah.
going on.
You have to have the service manual, not the consumer manual. So you can go and look, okay, what's this thing? Like, what's W01? And I'm looking for it on the menu, on the manual, sorry. And that is the cutoff for red. And the initial value should be 120, but we have 162. Yeah, a little high.
Well,
and well,
that's okay. I mean, I wouldn't worry about that yet. Actually, what we need to find, because in the white balance block, there's only the cutoffs and the drives.
Yeah.
So we actually
on the
need
signal block. Yeah.
Signal block.
Exactly. Let's go back. Let's go back into the signal block.
I want to make sure you have your normal control brightness at its like neutral position.
Okay.
Before we mess with anything in the service menu.
Okay, let's make sure about that. So let's go back. So contrast and brightness are at 0. Okay.
I see. Okay, good.
And sharpness, I need.
Initial setting for front panel controls. Everything's 0, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there we go. Back into the menu. It's hard to do it with one hand.
With the camera in the way and everything else. Yeah.
There
in the dark.
Go. Okay, so we're on the signal. So it says that the brightness should be 120. That's the initial setting, like the factory one, and we have 124.
But that's a little low still. Yeah.
Yeah. So
what I would like to try.
So what I do always is just take note of anything like what it was on the start, even if it's not the factory setting, just in case like it was tweaked on the factory because of some weird stuff. I feel like it's better to have that number there. Okay, so should we bring this down to 120, or I don't think that's what we want to do.
Let's get the colorimeter back into place. And I think we should go ahead and we can turn 20 IRE measurement on continuously and show that pattern.
Cool.
I'm double checking to make sure there isn't a separate sub-bright. I don't think there is. JVCs are weird.
No, I didn't see that. I just saw they had different brightness for 16:9 and like 3:4, and that's the only two things that you can change in there.
Right. So there's sort of like the service menu brightness that in the signal block that will change.
Right. Because the other thing that you have in there is the counter block, but you can't change anything in there.
Actually, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's start with 100.
Okay.
Let's go to 100, and we're gonna turn your peak white down to 120 nits with the that service menu contrast control in the signal block.
Okay. So. Oh, so you want 100 on the screen, or let's aim for 100 on the IRE.
Yeah, click 100. You click the 100 IRE header, and then when you hit the green play button at the top,
right,
it'll automatically pull up the 100 IRE pattern and continuously measure it in real time.
Right.
And so now you'll want to adjust your colorimeter down a little bit.
I think we can go a little bit. Oh, on the camera is fine. Okay, so cool. Let's see. So I'm getting 98 now.
98. All of a sudden, we have 98.
Well, I brought it down like 20 points.
Oh, okay. So let's turn that up until you hit 120 nits.
Right. Question. So, is there a reason why we aim for 120?
Well, until I read otherwise in this manual, if you have 120 nits at 100 IRE and a 2.3 gamma, your 20 IRE target will be about 3 nits, which is, I mean, I've read like 30 or 40 different Sony service manuals, and that's basically what they want all the time.
Okay.
Some of them are different. Like I read the D24 manual, and they want you to do, 100 nits at 2.4, and it's like 2.7 nits on 20 IRE, right? Like they actually spell it out in the BVM manuals, where the PVM manuals, they're like, what, you don't already know? It's like, we're not going to tell you. You should already know.
Yeah. By the way, when we're saying like 20 IRE or 100 IRE, those are the grayscale levels that you can
those
see.
are those. Yeah, those are those.
Yeah.
The pattern itself has a certain value. The intensity of the signal that's going in, and then the response of the CRT producing a certain amount of brightness. That's what we're calling nits, which is just a shorthand for candelabras per square meter or something, some nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's basically I guess do they use lumens for that?
No.
Okay.
It's CDM2, yeah, so it's candelabra per meter square or something like that. Nits is just a shorthand for the same thing. It's like how much light is being output in a certain area. So lumens is just the raw light output, like I don't think it's area dependent.
Right. Cool. So we got the 100 IRE to 119.
119?
That looks good. Or should I go over?
Yeah, 119. If you go to 116, if it hits 121, that's fine. It's not gonna hurt anything.
Okay.
Actually, well, let's see. That's the thing, though. If we go low, because we're gonna go to 20 and likely raise the brightness. When you raise the brightness, your peak white's also gonna go up. So we're gonna have to go back and forth between 20 and 100. Raising the brightness and lowering the contrast until they sort of stabilize. Where you go back and forth 2 or 3 times, and 20 still around 3 and 100 still around 120, and it hasn't changed and you haven't adjusted anything, then you're done. And then you can start doing the grayscale or the white balance.
Cool. Okay, so
that's fine. So yeah, so now if you click, all you have to do, you don't have to stop it or anything. You can just click on the 20.
Oh, nice.
And it'll automatically change to 20 IRE.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's good to know. Cool.
You may, sometimes I click on it twice or whatever, but it should be fine.
Cool.
It'll take a second for it to react.
Yeah. Well, and I guess one very important thing that we didn't mention is we adjusted brightness right now for the 100 IRE measurement.
Oh.
And now we're
SO1
going
was...
to... Yeah.
Oh, well, you said brightness, but I'm hoping we actually adjusted contrast.
Yeah, that's I just noticed that we adjusted brightness.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. Let's go back. Well, we're gonna have to raise brightness anyway. So we're here at 20 IRE. It's obviously too low because it's measuring 0.2. It should be 10 times that.
Right.
So
we're on SO2. That's contrast. So.
Well, SO2 is 97. That's a little low, isn't it?
Well, the initial is 95.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
that's fine.
So
it's still 118 at 97. That's okay. All right. So we gotta go back to S01 and 20 IRE, and we're gonna have to raise that and see what we can get done. What do we know? What the full sweep is? What's the lowest number for this and the highest number?
Let me check on the manual.
Looking at it now, but I don't see it right away.
Yeah. I guess it's either going to be 127 minus or plus or to 55 or 56.
Yeah, like a lot of the Sony ones are like 0 to 255 or
Yeah,
something like
it's
that.
just so that they can store it in an 8-bit register.
Yeah.
So, cool. Okay, so we're back on 100 IRE and we have the contrast, but the contrast seems fine because it's 190.
Yeah.
And
yeah, let's leave that alone. Let's go back to 20 and then S01, we're going to raise the brightness.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not sure if I actually have to roll. It doesn't seem to have like a go up button. So I'll need to roll back to... Okay, so 115, and we're on 20 IRE.
Ah, there you go. You have to cycle through to get back there, of course.
Cool. So on 20, we're at, I guess, 2? No, our target is 2, sorry.
We're aiming for 3.
We're aiming for 3, and yeah,
2.9.
2.9.
What's that, like 2.969 or something? It's basically
right. 3. Yeah, and we're at 0.2, so we're far.
Way low.
Yeah, so let's bring it up by a lot, and let's see what happens there. Okay, so
probably like 130 or something right off the bat. Just see what happens.
Yeah, so we're at 1.5.
There we go.
Let's see, 135. We're at 3.9. Okay, that's too much. 132. Okay, so 132 is 3.101.
That's close enough.
Yeah.
That's close enough for this. We're gonna go back to 100 and see how that's changed and make a contrast adjustment.
Right. So we're not 157. So yeah, we're really right.
Yeah, that's not surprising at all.
Yeah.
I wish I knew exactly what they wanted. You know, like sometimes we can just do this. We can just aim for like a reasonable peak white with a certain gamma, and it's perfectly happy doing that. And some monitors are like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. So I guess we should just try to aim for 120 because I looked through the manual and there's not much in there. And maybe someone in the chat has more knowledge about.
Does anyone have like the philosophy of JVC like service manuals? Like what precisely do they expect?
Yeah. So 121. I'm going to look at the chat in here. Okay. Oh, hey, we have 10 viewers, which is a record for me. That's surprising.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Well, they're all here for you.
Finished.
Yeah, good luck. That's JVC's philosophy.
Well, I mean, it's funny. I'm looking through the service manual now. It does mention the exact like coordinates for 6500K, but it doesn't say exactly what their peak white expectation is. It does have something for bright adjustment. Let's see. Conditional light adjustment. Split color bar. Select signal block. Adjust S01 to where the split color bar 0% black component faintly brightens. That's freaking descriptive. Thanks, JVC. I think what they're saying is that 0 IRE needs to have a non-zero, amount of luminance, which is what we've always aimed for. Like,
hey, Dan is here. Maybe he knows. Dan, do you know?
Dan's here.
Yeah, do you know what JVC specs for the peak brightness? Maybe.
He's gonna say, do whatever feels good.
Oh Oh, he was on the 10-minute can chat. Yeah, Twitch does that thing.
Oh, silly Twitch.
Yeah.
All right, so he has at least 10 minutes worth of corrections for what we've been talking about.
Yeah. Big brilliance was never spec. Was around
Yeah,
100.
he's not wrong.
Yeah.
You know, like I think we always look for 100 on like a sort of as maybe the official spec, but like, you know, you also want clean headroom. That's the thing about subcontrast, like on Sony monitors. You know, you want that set in a certain way so you have a certain amount of clean headroom for room corrections. Like if your room has a certain amount of brightness, you want to turn up from 100 nits to some value, you know, to combat ambient light. But you know, that's a sort of actually with the Color Monkey, like the switch on mine's kind of broken. It doesn't really do it anymore. But you could do an ambient light measurement, where you just set it on the table and measure your room ambience, and it would tell you what to set your peak white to combat it.
Yeah, exactly. And the software itself has the thing where it will adjust throughout the day, or when you want to bring it to a different location, it will adjust the screen. Yeah, that's nice. Well, Danny's saying,
yeah, I saw that.
It's basically comes down to the displays. Like early CRTs couldn't do 120, so yeah, that makes sense. What do you? This might be a little bit off topic, but what do you prefer for CRTs? Like 100 or 120?
Well, I've been getting on this kick recently with this, because you have to sort of decode, and I've read more Sony manuals than anything else. So, like, I'm sort of stuck on that, and it's been, like, picking up one clue in this manual and one clue in this manual, and, like, figuring out what it is they precisely want. And, you know, after that conversation with Joebot about the natural gamma response of the two being maybe 2.3, if you have your peak white at 120 nits, and you have a gamma calculation of 2.3, then 20 IRE is 3 nits. And a lot of Sony manuals want 20 IRE to be 3 nits. And I thought, hey, that seems like a reasonable thing to aim for then.
Yeah, that makes sense. I personally like, for my work screens, I prefer like 100 nits. But for my CRTs, which I used to play on, and media, basically, I prefer 120. I feel like it's more exciting.
When you get to the newer models, like the 50 series, the M series, which I've actually done a lot of work on M2s recently, and really got a handle on what they want. You know, when you when you turn the contrast knob on the front panel all the way up to maximum, you're supposed to set subcontrast so that maximum contrast is 170. And then when you turn it back down to center click, it's 120. Like, by definition, because that's how the circuit's designed.
Okay, yeah, that's... Wow.
And on the L5, it's the same thing. Like, because if you look at different Sony manuals, center click, what they consider center click is sometimes 70% contrast and sometimes 80% contrast. And what I found with the L5 is that if you turn maximum contrast all the way up to 100 and set that to 170 nits for a 14L5 like it asks, when you turn it down to 80, it's 120. And when you turn it down to 70, it's 100. So it follows. It's like they've been using sort of the same things for a long time. And so in some instances, you can borrow the principles from one Sony monitor and apply it to a different one. And if it's capable, it'll do it.
Right. Cool.
And it's probably like, you can't do that.
Cool. Well, so
where are we at? What are we measuring right now?
Yeah, we're on 100. We're on
we're on 100 now. Okay.
Yeah, so we go back to 20.
We're going to go back to 20.
Yeah, let's see.
Let's see where it ends up.
Yeah, we're at 2 now, so we'll have to bump.
We'll bump brightness up again, and we'll turn contrast back down.
Right.
Until this sucker snaps into place.
Yeah, this is like a tango.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's roll
I like his.
around. And we have to go up.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
35, 2.9, 76. That's close enough. We'll have to move it again, so no need to.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you have to go back and forth so much. You don't have to be super precise until they start to really stabilize.
Right, and it seems
See, like now it's only
close.
it's only 127 this time. So
yeah, so bring it up by 2, maybe. Yeah, one more. 120, 119. Okay, cool. So let's go back to 20. And
Durf was asking if we're ignoring the Y target. Well, like the default, if you open a brand new page in Color HDFR, the default is 120 nits. I mean, generally that's going to be okay. But every time you change the the contrast setting and your peak white is changing, it recalculates your whole gamma based on whatever it is you set it to. So you can set it to 100, you can set it to 70, you can set it to 150, and that all those targets at the bottom will be recalculated based on your target gamma.
right.
So if you set it for 2.2 or 2.3 or 2.4, every other Y target will change based on whatever you set 100 to. Now, like I said, with the M series and the L series, it's a pretty stiff definition. Like, they want maximum contrast to be 170 nits, and you set subcontrast that way, and then when you turn it back down to center click, it ends up at 120. Like, if it doesn't, there's something wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It's like if you follow the steps in the service manual and you do all the things and it's still not right, there's something wrong. Like, by definition, if it fails calibration, then there's something wrong inside. Like, there's a bad cap or some other components failing, or the tube's worn out.
Mm-hmm. So I think we're pretty on target. So we're at 3 on 20, and we're at 121 at 100 IRA.
Okay.
So
we're looking at, So actually, when you're looking at this, because we have the overall Y value against your Y target, if you look down at the RGB values, so you have the thing on the left-hand side with the RGB bars, the little columns.
Right.
And the delta yellow column. If you look at the current measure, it's like that whole column of values, all those numbers. I don't know what half those numbers do, Dan. You can help us with some of them if you want. But the RGB values, they're about the third block from the top.
Yeah.
It just says RG and B. The red is 3.4, green is basically 3, and blue is 2.4. So it's nice now, and Daniel has stressed this before. Green carries the majority of your luminance value.
Right, and we can see that on the CIE diagram. Like, there's a huge...
You look at the shape of the triangle, you can tell most of the light is green. But since your G value here is about 3 nits, then we know we need to bring red down and blue up to get it even. So that's probably what we're going to do next, is go to the white balance block. Cool. And we're going to
Should we do a grayscale, a full grayscale now, just to see where we're at?
We could just, if you want to just run it, since you have it set up automatically and it doesn't take very long, just run one. Let's see where we end up. Like, just getting, 20 and 100 under control. It should improve things a little bit. It's still going to be off because we haven't actually made those red and blue adjustments.
Right. I just noticed that looking at the stream, you can notice the interlace on the stream, like the menu is moving one pixel up.
I can see it bouncing. Bounce.
Exactly.
Dan will appreciate that you're actually feeding it 480i, presumably, to the CRT from
Yes, 480i.
Color HDFR.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
I don't know what his experience has been. So now, actually, interestingly enough, everything is sort of it's
in the middle,
wrong,
yeah.
but it's all equally wrong, right? Like you had
Yes.
numbers all over the place before, but now that you have brightness and contrast under your control, the amount of wrongness is more consistent, which is actually promising, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, seems like it's going to be a good calibration, at least for now.
And I think JVC, and I think this is pretty true of most of them, they want you to do your low light adjustment first. So we'll go back to 20 IRE continuous measure and the white balance block.
Let's go. Okay.
Yes. I don't know if Dan, if you've done any experiments with that, but my just in fiddling, I'd noticed at least a 3 nit difference between 240p and 480i, and that is enough to throw things off.
Mm-hmm. So, well, I guess we should adjust both.
W01, I bet it's going to be W01 and W03, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly, yeah. I need to get the signal back. Okay, so 1 is red cutoff, 2 is green cutoff. Okay. So
I don't think we'll have to touch green because it's pretty much where we want it.
Mm-hmm. It's probably going to move as we adjust.
I'm surprised they even let you touch it, for that matter. But that's a big philosophical difference, I guess, between JVC and Sony.
Well, for the dry, we just have red and blue. But for the cutoff, we have RGB.
Yeah. If you want to know really bananas, is white balancing a 2530. On the low end, you only have sub-bright, red cutoff and blue cutoff. And then on the high end, you only have green drive and blue drive.
Yeah, the consumer set that I calibrated was kind of like that. Like you.
Yeah,
it
consumer
was
Sony.
A little bit.
It's this weird. There's this weird like transitional period where like older Sony tubes, the middle phosphor was red, basically. Like if you were doing the beam landing where you pull the yoke back and doing the color purity, which I don't recommend anyone ever do because it's a total nightmare.
That's the rings, right?
Yeah, that's the purity rings. The other two sets of rings are convergence. You definitely usually have to mess with those. But the purity rings, the ones that are closest to the bell of the tube, like that's what you would have to try and do to fix that green on yours, right? If external degaussing didn't fix it, you would have to do the beam landing, which is a total nightmare.
Yes. I have heard that from everyone basically. Like you don't want to like take off the glue that they have in there and move it.
Well, I mean, I've moved yokes. That's fine, but doing beam landing is counterintuitive because you think, oh, I'll just move the purity until green is exactly green. That's not how it works. You actually have to, when you pull the yoke back, you actually can see, like it's almost like you're magnifying where the electron guns are landing, and you actually have to make corrections so that the stripes are vertical, right? You might have like a little S shape to it or something, and you can fix it, some of it with the purity rings, and then you have to fix the rest of it with these little disc magnets on the outside of the bell of the tube. It's, I mean, yeah, if you want perfect color, you kind of have to do it. But that's one of those things that you sort of cross your fingers and pray they got right at the factory, because actually doing it is hilarious.
Yeah, no, and I mean, like, I have seen people attempt to do it, and it's not only like hard to manipulate those things, you also have to do it like with an exposed chassis and like high voltage going on there, and also you have to go around the monitor, have some kind of setup with a camera or a mirror. but that's
Yep.
not optimal because you have to get really close to the screen.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, for that one, it's not too bad. Actually, nowadays it would be a lot easier because I'd been using a magnifying glass of a sort and my DSLR as a live feed camera, so I could see the screen while I was back there without having to look around.
Right.
But now I think you could just set your cell phone up
Exactly,
in like
yeah.
macro mode on a tripod and just beam it like straight to your television.
That definitely makes it a little bit easier, at least on the manipulation part. Being able to confirm
If you're doing
what
conversions,
you're doing.
yeah, if you're doing conversions, the fact that you can run live, like easily connect your phone to your TV and like live feed the video while you're doing conversions, yeah, I would definitely recommend that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So okay, so let's. Guess we should start.
Looks
with
like
the
you're at
cutoff.
yeah, you're on red already, so let's turn that down a little bit until it gets
Yeah.
closer to 3. And you'll find as you're dropping the red, the blue might actually come up a little bit all by itself.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm about 3 on red. That looks good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The
There you
2
go.
is the green, which we're not going to touch, and we're going to bring
If
blue up.
if red's a little high, when you bring up blue, it might drop a little bit. There's a sort of balancing act in the way the cathodes are made, I think.
Yeah. Let's see. 313. Let's go 1 back. 3.1 and 3.1.
Oh yeah, that's pretty clean.
Yeah. Okay, let me take that down one more and let's see what happens. Okay, 2.9. That's a little bit closer. But the red. Oh, the red is okay. That's really good.
Sometimes
2.9.
you have to wait. Sometimes you have to give it a second to. It'll stabilize itself.
Yeah.
The circuit will self-correct a little bit.
So green is at 3, and the other ones are at 2.9 and 3.1, jumping between those values.
Yeah. Red tends to do that. It'll jump between like a little low and a little high. It's just there to annoy you on purpose. Don't worry about it. It's part of the design.
So Danny's already making a correction. You don't get more blue as you drop red. You just perceive it that way.
Is the colorimeter I think I'm saying that based on some experiences I've had setting screen resistors on really old tubes, where when you're turning the G2 or the screen, you can literally watch the guns turn on and off one way or the other. And like sometimes if you can't get an objective setting, the best thing to do is to turn it so that I've seen it where like red would be too high, blue's too low, and then as you turn the screen up, the blue will come up and the red will come down, and there's a place where they're roughly balanced at a low light condition, and that's sometimes the only way you can get a decent G2 setting. And it's still going to be a wonky gamma response curve, but those old monitors I think they're always wonky.
Yeah, well, I guess if you're dealing with resistors and the light voltage in there, like at the end of the day,
that might also be a
sharing that
Trinitron tube thing, and not these JVC tubes may not behave the same way.
Oh,
Interesting.
Wow.
Interesting. Okay.
Hey, Flying Dutchman. He's saying, hey
There
guys,
you go.
I successfully done the purity ring adjustment on a Sony 14.
N2U.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've worked on an N2U.
It's not that bad, other than having to do it while the CRT is on. But adjusting the ring itself is fairly straightforward. The hardest part is not twisting the other rings.
Yeah, you do have to be careful about that.
Well, trying to adjust just the purity ring. Oh, while
Probably not gonna get electrocuted.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. Not on an N2. There's not much in there, to be honest. It looks a lot like a consumer set. It's so bare bones.
Yeah, I guess unless I'm not sure. Like you dunk your hands in salty water or something like that.
Yeah. All right. So actually, if you want to, as an experiment, we can just run the grayscale again.
Mm-hmm.
based on this first adjustment, just to see kind of how things changed. And we're still gonna have to go back to 100 and do red and blue, but
Yeah.
this is pretty good.
Yeah, it's actually doing pretty good. I'm not sure if it's because I have you here, but when I calibrated my my TM H150 CG, it was much harder to get everything working together.
Is that that's a more complicated monitor though, right?
It's basically the same thing but bigger, and it's a shadow mask instead of a dot mask.
Oh, okay.
Oh, look at all of that green, and it's split
Yeah.
right in the middle. So
right, yeah, exactly. That's yeah, and that's actually not surprising. So yeah, we'll go to 100, and then we'll
yeah.
What's that? W4 and 5 are going to be the adjustments.
Yeah. So we have the red drive and blue drive. Let's see. So it seems like blue needs to go down a little bit and red needs to go up a little bit. Let's see.
I feel like there's this weird push-pull between the drives and the cutoffs.
I definitely felt that while I was doing the other JVC. Yeah. I definitely felt that. Like I would bring red up and blue would go down. But like Dan said, the colorimeter, it's basically
doing a perceptual processing of some kind.
Yeah.
Is that the colorimeter firmware, or would that be color ACFR doing all the heavy lifting there? That's a good question.
I guess part of it is going to be the sensor and how the signals are encoded. Maybe it's kind of like. I'm not sure if you we're on retro side, so maybe you're also into vinyl records. Like phono amplifiers have a special curve, right? So the information is not encoded like one-to-one. I guess because of the needle, right? I guess the sensor might be the same way. Like there's part of it that is the sensor, and the other part of it is the software.
Yeah, part of it. Yeah. I can see that.
Okay, cool. So we're on red. 04. Let's push that up a little bit. 94, 95, 96%. Okay, so we're aiming for 120 on the red.
Flying Dutchman's asking exactly which monitor this is. Some tiny, cute little JVC dot mask of some description.
Yeah, it's the TMA101G, and it's actually it's been RGB modded. You can, if you're interested, you can see I have the streams on this channel where I RGB modded, and now we're calibrating it, and it seems like the RGB mod, it was really good because it's so far it's been behaving really well.
Because we can't change green, I would make red 123.
123
to match green.
Okay.
Whatever greens fluctuating between like 122 and 123, I'd turn red up until it matches.
Right.
Because then once we get them all the same, even if it's a couple nits too high, then you go to contrast and change that.
Oh, that's a huge like pro tip there. I wouldn't have figured that out by myself ever.
Well, especially on this one where you only have red and blue drive. The only way to change green is contrast, but it's going to change everything. Right. So you want your reds and blues to match green in intensity, and then contrast is going to be able to move all three up and down.
Right. Okay, so I think we're pretty balanced there. 123, 123, and 123.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's awesome. Cool. So let's run the.
You can just run another. Well, let's go back to 20 and see how it changed, because it definitely did.
Okay. So just a second. The first one takes longer. Some video card capable of outputting. Yeah, Derf, I'm using ATI Radeon. I think it's a 67 model. And it's running on CRT EMU drivers. Yeah.
So it's already outputting. So your video card's outputting 480i. So how are you translating that to, like, what, RGBS, like
Well,
BNC or VGA? Like, what kind of
mhm.
connector are you using?
Well, it's going from VGA out of the computer into a switch and stuff like that, but then it's BNC on the back
Oh, okay.
of the monitor.
So your switch is
And
doing
composite
the
sync.
sync combining.
Hmm?
Yeah, because you have one of the newer ATI cards, so you can do
Yes.
composite sync over the.
Yes.
Because I only have my old computer.
Oh,
My
look at
old
that.
PC.
It's all green.
Let's
That's-
go back to.
Uh-huh.
Was that 20? Let's go look
Yeah.
at 20.
20. Okay, yeah, we can bring red a little bit down.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, so
And
again,
blue up a little bit. Yeah.
we're aiming for 3 on the. We're actually aiming for balance between the colors, but
Yeah,
the
we'll aim
number
for
is
balance,
3.
and then we can do brightness and contrast to fix everything up. But yeah, like I would just leave green alone, really, and just change your red and blues until you get back to 3. Because your green's already 3, so there's no point in changing it. It's good.
Yeah.
It's happy.
And my experience so far, which is like 4 monitors, no 5, it's been like it's kind of always that case. Like green always tends to be like kind of balanced to the right value.
Mm. Yeah.
From the start at least. Okay, so now we're going to bring blue just a tiny bit up. There you go. Just one notch.
Oh, I was saying, my old computer, it's the original Asus motherboard, the very first one that had HDMI. It's the N3A78 EMH HDMI. I can't believe I still have that motherboard model number memorized. But it had built-in Radeon HD 3200 graphics.
Oh, nice.
So it can do CRT EMU driver, but it can't do composite sync. So I have to output RGB HV 480i from the computer to like a Extron 190F to convert it into RGBS. But I accidentally like left my 190F on for like 4 months straight, and I think it's dead. So I probably have to buy a new one.
Yeah. Well, actually, I
Why is the writing in the way?
The writing.
Oh, like
yeah.
your the
menu.
numbers are in the white field. Not that the colorimeter is actually picking that up, but I would be concerned that it would be. But it doesn't seem to be messing it up.
Yeah, no.
I would just be paranoid.
It's well, I guess the camera angle is more dramatic because it's a little bit from the bottom, but from here, I'm pretty sure it's not like on the actual like sensor.
Earth, I could make a sync combiner, but Extron 190Fs are still $30 on eBay, so I'll just buy another one.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say I'm doing today probably on the night. I'm going to be making a sync combiner like on a cable because I need one of those for my Mister because I have.
Yeah. Dark's gonna buy every 190F on eBay right now.
Yeah. Yeah, basically you can make a really simple circuit with like 1 transistor and 2 resistors, and that's a good combiner. Cool. So
where are we at? We're on 100 IRE now.
123.
What, you're bringing blue down a little bit?
Yeah, I need to bring blue just a little bit down. Let's see. 123, 123, 123. 122, 122. Oh, that looks perfect to me. Okay.
Yeah, if you see the little guys, the percentages like bouncing between like 99 point something and 100 point something.
Yeah.
Like that's well within the like margin of error for the circuit. It's like it's not going to get more perfect than that, not necessarily.
Yeah. And it probably, like, Danny, if you can correct me, but I would assume, like, if you see those bouncing so much, part of it is probably the sensor. I mean, it's a $100 sensor. It's not going to be, like...
super perfect,
yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, no, I mean, it does the job.
I would be interested to learn more about when specific failures actually suggest like what might be wrong inside, right? Like, because I've done some measurements where I was like, oh, I know exactly what's wrong. Like, I have to open up the back now and go find some bad cap somewhere or something like that. Actually, like I was working on, what was that? It was on a 2030 for somebody else. I was working on getting it calibrated. It had actually come out of WGN TV studios in Chicago like years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But before they sold it off, they just put a new tube in.
Okay.
Right? So they had a brand new tube before it got sold off. But that's all they did. All they did was put the tube in. So nothing had been done.
Okay.
And
not good, probably.
well, no, it was atrocious. But I was trying to white balance it, and I kept having the same problem over and over again where it wouldn't kind of snap into place in a certain way. And this was right when I got I borrowed an analog oscilloscope from a friend of mine that he just had in his basement. And so this is like my first time I actually found a problem with an oscilloscope where, whatever the problem was, it was pinky, like it was something wrong with red. I was like, I know something's wrong with red. Let's go find out what's wrong with red. And so I would put the oscilloscope probe on some part of the red signal, like near white balance. I'm like, maybe there's a bad cap in the white balance circuit or something, right? Mm-hmm. And you touch it there, and the red, waveform has got this wang to it, right? And you're like, oh, that's not good. That's not supposed to look like that. Mm-hmm. And I go back a step, earlier in the signal chain, it's still there. I keep going back, it's still there. Keep going back, and they end up all the way at the input board, and it's still there. I'm like, what is going on? And of course, the 30 series input boards are taking those apart is a nightmare. Mm-hmm. I got all the way to the actual that 20 some pin thing they use for RGB on those old Sony monitors. Mm-hmm. The red pin, when it comes into the monitor, the first thing it does is get juiced by a diode up to a certain voltage, and then it gets smoothed out by a capacitor before it goes through anything else. That capacitor was bad. And so you can imagine this capacitor that's supposed to be smoothing out the signal after it gets juiced by a diode failing. Yeah. And then it goes through 14 stages of amplification between there and the actual neck board. And it just gets worse and worse and worse as it goes along. Yeah. It was just one cap in the input board. And that was the first thing I tracked down with an oscilloscope on a TV. I was like, I'm a genius.
Yeah, no, I actually had that same moment, very similar when I was doing the RGB mod for this. I was doing when I did the circuits, like the input signal circuits, which is just a voltage divider and a cap, I didn't notice, but one of the connections was not great. If you looked at it, it looked perfect, but if it wasn't quite there. So when I did the first test image, I was really happy. Okay, we have RGB and everything, but I noticed a greenish tint. And with the sunlight and that, I was asking myself, oh, maybe this is just calibration, or maybe this is something in the circuit. And I went back with a multimeter and started looking at the voltages. And I used the 240p test suite. So this is, I feel like this is so useful. Well, obviously for many reasons, but you can get the pure red, the pure white, the pure blue. So if you go there and what I did ended up doing is okay, so white look green, red look red, green look green, blue look blue. So what I did is, okay, let's measure the the voltages on those three signals, and blue and red were fine, but like the same, like almost a volt, and then green was like 0.5 up from there.
Oh, too high.
Yeah, it was a little bit too high, so it was like,
That'll
wow.
throw everything off.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I figured out like, okay, this is the problem. Like one resistor, basically was the termination resistor, the 75 ohm, wasn't connected right, so that was it, and I felt like a genius.
There you go. Perfect. Actually, now that we've got the grayscale under control, you can run your primaries and secondaries again and see where they land.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's so far it's looking great. I'm really amazed. Like.
Oh, actually, I think if you go through, Lord, there's an option somewhere where you can add the option to measure white and black for primaries and secondaries. I always turn it on, but I don't know why. I just figure it's a good idea.
Yeah, probably. Let's see if we can.
Well, that's not terrible.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, green and red are a little bit off, but
the fact that yellow is so good is good when in terms of skin tones and that sort of thing.
Yes.
So that's okay.
And that's funny because this is basically a CCTV monitor for surveillance.
Yeah, right.
It's not supposed to be like a photography monitor or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I think this is all right. Why is it saying?
So Flying Dutchman is asking what's the spectrometer and software called. So for the sensor, we're using a Color Monkey from.
It's an old X-ray.
Yeah.
It was like before the i1 display. It was called the Color Monkey. It's the same. On a hardware level, it's the same sensor. It's the initial i1 display was just a software refresh and maybe an update to the firmware.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get it on. You have to get it used because they don't make it anymore. They do. No. What do they call them now?
You go from the X-Rite Color Monkey display to the i1 display.
Yeah, and then
there was like 3 versions of that, and now it's called Color Bright.
Color Bright. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And
so you could buy a brand new Color Bright. Actually, has anyone? I don't know if anyone's done. No one's rolled the dice on buying a $200 Color Bright, $180 Color Bright to see if it works on CRTs.
Yeah, because they don't say anything on the spec sheets, like they.
No, and I think it would probably have to do with whether or not the Argyle CMS guys are going to add the firmware from the Color Bright to Color HDFR, and I think mostly, I don't know. Dan might know. On some level, whether or not it can do a CRT is part of the sensor. It's part of the firmware, but it's also part of the software, right? So, like, you buy that Color Monkey. I think if you bought the Color Monkey, the software could do like an sRGB calibration for a CRT, but like the i1 display didn't. Like, if you buy like the whatever. I think you like downloaded like an i1 version of the software to do PC like sRGB calibrations. It didn't support CRTs necessarily, so I'd actually have to probably go back and find the Color Monkey software and see if it supported CRTs.
So Flying Dutchman is asking like, are these designed for CRTs? I don't think they're like particularly designed for CRTs, but they support the technology, which is basically on like spectrometer.
Yeah, I mean this one's fine for CRTs, and it's pretty good, and it doesn't need to be profiled against the spectrometer necessarily, like some of the other ones. There were some. I think a lot of the older organic sensor ones have to be profiled against the spectrometer.
Yeah, they go off.
But, I mean, I thought I was, early on, I thought that was just one of those things you just go get done, right? Like, oh yeah, started calling like calibrators in Chicago, like, hey, can you profile my colorimeter? And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But no, yeah, you have to have, if you want to do that sort of thing, you have to have both. You have to have a known good monitor. That's why I thought, I don't know, it's weird.
Oh, so Dan answered the question. So he said support for CRT comes down to the firmware, having a mode that understands how CRTs push colors out. It's all perceptual, so machines need to know about a human eye. In theory, any colorimeter can support CRTs, but you need firmware on the board. Oh, okay, that makes sense.
I knew the firmware had a big part to play. Dutchman's asking about the Color Monkey doing proofing paper, and I think no, because I think it's only for displays, and that X-Rite at the time had a separate measuring device that was more expensive, but you could actually use it to profile your camera. I think like you would use like color squares to profile your camera, and then you could use it to calibrate your display, and then you could actually use it to calibrate your printer. So you would use the same thing that you would use this for to calibrate your display, but you could take it off the screen and put it on paper and measure your ink output and that sort of thing, and calibrate your printer as well with the same device. So it was more expensive than say Spider, right? You had to buy one very expensive, like $300 or $400 thing to do your whole signal chain. Whereas Spider, you could buy like an affordable sensor to do your displays, like in an automated fashion, but you had to turn around and buy their separate printer calibrator, which was still $400. It's like, why don't I just buy the X-Rite then? Like, it can do everything.
Right. So, Dan, maybe you know about this because you're onto open source. Have you ever heard or seen some kind of effort to do like an open source colorimeter? Because I know that the sensors, I think they're not proprietary, so it should be
the
possible.
Color HDFR guys have a homemade colorimeter, but it's part of their project that they've been working on for like 20 years or something like that. But
Color
I think
hack, he says, sadly not made anymore.
Exactly. But a lot of those probably needed to be profiled against the spec to make sure that they were behaving themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you get a lot out of that Color Monkey for $100 or $150 even. Like, I've used mine so much. I've gotten my $150 worth out of it. And it's funny because I bought mine for probably $150 because I bought it basically brand new, like new old stock. It was still sealed in the package.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I'll spend a little extra. I'll just get a new one. And then like one of the first people I remember talking to on the RetroTech Discord was like, yeah, I found one on eBay for $70. I was like, not fair.
He's saying,
like I said, I got my money for it, for sure.
Yeah. So Danny's also saying that the color hack was made by Dave Hughes. He's on the Linux open source project. And he asked him,
not worth it.
Yeah, if you would make them again, not worth it. Yeah, that tends to happen. It's hard. I really believe like open source is the future, but right now, like economy is completely like in your way if you want to do open source.
It's hard right now, but
yeah.
But like, but even, I mean, it just depends on what your toolkit is too. Like, I had a guy ask me if I would recap his like vintage stereo, just to drive stereo speakers, like just a regular old normal component stereo, like receiver. And I was like, I don't want to. It's like, I got too much shit to do. I'm not taking this thing apart and figuring it out. I don't want to. Take it to, there's like plenty of like, stereo guys like in sort of midtown Chicago. I was like, just go take it to one of those guys.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. So, do you think we should?
We don't have to get the Display Pro. Durf is asking about the X-Rite i1 Display Pro, and I was like, the Pro is great if you want to calibrate your CRTs and your OLED. Yeah, get the Pro. It's expensive,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's just the regular i1 display was identical to the Color Monkey, hardware-wise and firmware-wise.
There's the
It was just
studio, I think,
repackaged.
also.
Yeah, I don't know about the studio. You'd have to ask Dan.
Yeah.
But
I think basically,
yeah.
like, because I think spiders don't do CRT. Maybe the Spider 1 or Spider 2, but not like...
Yeah, but the spiders have always been a little janky.
Yes.
And I learned that the hard way when I was doing photography, like more often. Like the spider, I bought a nice spider, like a newer one, just a few years ago. But I was using it strictly to profile, like to calibrate my display for Photoshop. It worked great for that.
Mm-hmm.
But then my buddy, he actually had a Canon Pro 10 printer that he let me use for a while. You know, I had to buy my own ink. It was like 10 canisters of ink. It was like $130, but it made great prints. It was an amazing printer. But I couldn't calibrate that with the Spider. And I was like, well, how much is the Spider, printer calibrator? And it's like $400. I'm like, oh, that's how they get you. Like I bought the color squares and the software to calibrate my camera, and then I bought the colorimeter to calibrate my display, and it's like now I need the printer calibrator, and that's where they get you.
Yeah. Wow. So that is okay. I think this is super interesting, and since we have Derf in here, I feel like this should go into the CRT wiki, because he then posted a link that
the Argo
has a
CMS.
list. That has a list of CRT supported colorimeters, and I feel like that is incredibly valuable, because I searched for that, but like on that page it's not clear like this is what this thing is like, so I couldn't find it. So
that's why I keep pushing people towards the Color Monkey, because it's just I guess maybe now it might be getting harder to find.
It's definitely harder.
2 years ago, or at the beginning of the apocalypse, Dan put that video out at the perfect time, because literally Chicago was just getting locked down, and I'm like, well, what am I going to do with my time? And he put out that learn how to calibrate CRTs video, and I was like, oh, I know what I'm going to do with my time.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, these 2 last years have been like pretty special. pretty special. Definitely,
special,
I think
that's a word.
Yeah. I mean,
all right, so I tell you what I like to do. You got this thing pretty good. I mean, you could run the full tilt boogie if you want. We could see where everything lands.
Yeah, that seems that was
but
what I was going to ask.
If you go to advanced,
okay,
go to advanced at the top.
Oh, you can see it on the stream, but I'm on advanced.
Oh, I can't see it, right?
Yeah.
Almost have to pull this up myself.
So it says targets, meter, simultaneous measures, export preferences, languages. So simultaneous measures, maybe?
No, simultaneous measures is when you're profiling the colorimeter against a spec.
Mm-hmm. Targets, images, patterns.
Maybe. Let me just open up.
Okay.
Let me open it up on my desktop real quick. It's in here somewhere.
This JBC,
I think it is.
Black and white. Flying Dutchman, you mean the A101G?
Advanced. Targets, images, patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Evaluation images. Skin tones.
Skin tones. Okay.
Now, I guess the keyboard shortcut is Control-0, but that's fine.
I can tell you, like,
it's for ladies.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's really. I find it's actually one of the most helpful things they have on there. You can go through all those advanced ones, like control 1, 2, 3 up all the way up through 0, and it's like majority green, majority red, majority cyan, majority magenta.
Right.
Like different photographs, and you get a feel for like what the calibration is, how it's behaving. You have to hit escape to leave each one, by the way, if you hadn't already figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It looks great, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think color-wise, it might look better than the the 150 CD, which is like really, really good monitors. We have some JVC fanboys, or cult. We call it the cult, the JVC cult.
The JVC cult. Oh my god.
And some people think it's like best PBM ever.
Yeah.
No, this one looks great, to be honest. It looks amazing in person. Probably color-wise, the best that I have like right now. So not sure how it looks on the camera and with the compression and all of that, but I can tell you.
Yeah, but no, it's fine. Awesome. It's mostly for your benefit to see it with your own eyes. Mm-hmm. Like, I mostly use the redhead. Like, in 6500K, she's gonna have a slightly like more like tan complexion, and then in 9300K, when you're doing that, if your monitor's capable of it, she has a much more paler complexion. But they both look good,
Mm-hmm.
But that's just,
Cool. So should we run the full tilt boogie?
Yeah. Let's run it, and then we can look at the full screen CIE diagram afterwards and see if we spot any unusual behavior.
Cool. Oh, I need to put the.
Yeah, you should probably put the colorimeter back on.
Yeah. That makes sense. Let's not touch the sensor. Cool. So now I'll have to stop it somehow. I think I can't stop it now.
One of these days, I'm going to convince Artemio to put the entire full tilt boogie into 240p test.
That would be awesome.
So you can do a manual full tilt boogie.
That would be awesome, because like burning the DVD and dealing with that is nobody wants.
I mean,
to
that's
do that.
fine. I mean, for like, so if you were going to do an L5, like 720p 1080i signals, like the component high def signals, like you just burn the Rec 709 disc from AVS forums to DVD and just put it on the PS3, and use the component output from a PS3 to do that. It's perfectly fine. But some of the other systems, like we've talked about, I think Dan and I have talked about the nature of untrustworthiness for especially the older systems. But I've run my Wii output in 240p test suite through my oscilloscope a few times, and it looks pretty good. So I rely on that heavily, especially right now with my my Extron 190F out of commission.
That's the signal generator, right?
Well, that's the thing that let me interface my PC with CRT.
Oh, I see. Okay, yes. Yeah, no, but I mean, there's the Raspberry Pi like option, but that's like composite only or HDMI only, so that's not really great unless you're doing HDMI monitors, but that's not what we're doing.
Dan will be amused by this. My sister has been married to her second husband for quite a number of years now, and they've been using the same like big Samsung flat panel like LCD for like 10 years or something, and I've been staring at that TV every time I visit her, and it was so wrong. It was so wrong. Like, I could tell how bad it was, and I just, finally went down there to visit this last time, like maybe like a month ago or so. I took my laptop and my colorimeter with me. I was like, you guys go to bed. I'm calibrating your TV, and we'll talk about it in the morning. And I was up all night. Yeah. So, but I got it looking really good, and they were actually watching it the next night, and they're like, "Man, this is like a big improvement." I'm like, "I know."
It's like a new TV. That's nice. Once you start calibrating stuff, everyone else's stuff look wrong.
Wrong all the time. It's horrendous. I've actually taken it one step further, and I've taken my colorimeter to work and calibrated everyone's monitors in my department one at a time. Like, I've gone over to them and basically just like gave them the pitch. You know, I actually had one guy, like one of the new guys, like he's just setting up his area and like getting himself settled in, and you know, wrapping his head around like whatever it is that he's working on, and he hadn't really had a chance to deal with anything as far as the computer they gave him to work with. And he's like, I'm getting to the end of the day, and I'm like, got headaches when I'm driving home. I'm like, bro, I have just the thing for you. And I brought my colorimeter into work the next day, and I was like, let me fix your stuff up here. And you know, we installed just the regular X-Rite software, and I just profiled it in sRGB, like full automatic, because they weren't the best monitors in the world anyway, so it didn't have to be super perfect, but it got close enough. And his headaches went away, like,
wow,
immediately. Like, he was going home at the end of the day not with the same headaches that he was going home with before that. And I was like, yeah, that's what it's about.
I can assume it was too blue, maybe.
Yeah, it's too blue, too bright and too blue.
Okay, yeah, because that happened to me also, like with my first LCD. I kept my CRTs until like 2010, something like that, maybe 12. There were ViewSonics, not great, but they were pretty good, and there were CRTs like BGA CRTs, so no lag, great blacks. And the first screen that I bought, it was also a ViewSonic, an LCD, but it was way too blue, and it gave me headaches so much. So I had to just sell it and get another one. I didn't know how to calibrate shit, and I can't remember, to be honest, if it even had like the controls to get an RGB, and I didn't know about profiles at that time.
I guess while we have Dan in here, he hasn't left yet or anything. I can ask him, because I was sort of presenting that my hypothesis, and maybe he could confirm. We're looking at this. We'll zoom in on the CIE diagram here in a second. You know, if you see at the very bottom of the screen where it says measures, the little like a what do you call that?
A tab?
The tab at the bottom. Yeah. If you right click on that,
okay,
I think
open
you should
tab
be
in
able
new
to
window.
You can open a new tab.
Okay.
And it can be a full screen CIE diagram. I think that's how you do that. I could be wrong.
Duplicate tab, maybe. Nope. Let's see. Activate tab, maybe. Nope.
Well, that drop down CIE diagram is also pretty good, but I'm gonna have to open up HDFR again.
So Dan, how do I use this software? How do we make the CIE diagram?
Yeah, hold on.
Click graph up to the top. Okay, graphs. Okay. CIE diagram. Oh, there you go. Nice.
See, it's interesting because my version of HDFR opens those tabs automatically.
Maybe I closed them.
Maybe.
It was too much information.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, okay. All right, I'm silly. So the question was, this actually looks pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I think I've discovered that those, you see how your yellows are basically spot on, and your blues are pretty close.
Yeah.
And
red is a little bit shifted.
Red's overdriving a little bit, but a lot of the mistakes in the intermediaries are made by like if G2 screen isn't set right, that'll throw your midtones off, and that can throw those measurements off. And like a really solid flat gamma response fixes a lot of that. But what I wanted to ask Dan was that because the magenta and green axis is off, he said, oh, he's already saying it. It's very normal. But I was going to ask him if that was what I thought. My theory was that it was that could be solved with an external degausser. That it's the electron guns hitting the phosphorus crooked, and something like that would sort it out. Or if that's just a tough shit situation. I don't know if you can control. Well, this is an RGB mod, so there's no saturation at all.
Yeah, there's no phase, no saturation.
Yeah, you can't do without. You bypass the NTSC decoder, like you lose color volume and phase, like hue control.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't cry about this one at all.
Me neither. And I mean, it's a 10-inch monitor, so it's going to look perfect. Fixes usually
appear.
Oh.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, that would be like a purity thing, but I didn't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those things I haven't been able to sort out on my own. I haven't figured that out. I've never read about it or heard about it. Solution. If there is a solution, maybe there isn't a solution. Maybe that's a tough titty situation.
And I mean, in this case, I think this is completely fine.
Yeah,
like more than fine.
No. I think yeah, you put something on the screen, you're gonna be happy with it.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe. Well, I guess we need to do geometry, but
yeah, if you want to take a look at that, yeah. This is the thing that drives me the baddiest about color HDFR, because you end up still having to go back to either an external pattern generator or 240p test suite for geometry, because all of the patterns in HDFR are 16:9, and they do you zero good on a CRT, on a 4x3 CRT.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, let's switch to the Mister. So we are not going to need the colorimeter anymore, I think.
Oh yeah, so I guess that's the next question. Is like, you got this little tiny guy here. What is your use case? What are you gonna run through this? Like, what types of games do you plan on playing on here?
So, I'm in love with the Mister. So far I've been rediscovering all of the childhood systems, but also all of this new stuff. So it's hard. But so far I feel like the SNES test suite is like the best middle ground so far. Especially like this monitor here doesn't have underscan, the one that we're calibrating, but for my other monitors that have underscan, like those two modes like do all I needed to do.
That's a good question. I wanted to see, let me look at the manual and see if it has any clue on how much overscan it's actually supposed to have.
I think they had something about overscan.
Yeah, I'm looking now. We'll see. Sometimes it's just in the specs at the very beginning, like 7% overscan or whatever it is, and like we could calculate that. But
yeah, I saw it around here. So around page 29, yeah. Signal generator crosshatch. So 95% should be viewable.
95%.
Yeah, at least that's what I get from what they have it there.
Right. Well, of course, the thing about something like Super Nintendo is that that's already the Super Nintendo image area is already way less than 95%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would guess. I mean, if you're going to play anything else on here that's 240 line, if you set this up so that you see 100% of the Super Nintendo image area, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, I overscan a little bit. So basically, I'm seeing stuff that you shouldn't see on the Super Nintendo. That's the way I like to set it. So that when I go to the Neo Geo or stuff like that, it's not like the crop is not that bad.
That's why I keep gravitating towards the Wii version of 240p Test Week, because it's like 320 by 240. Generally, the width is still identical to the width of like Genesis and Super Nintendo, based on the dot clock. But if you get your, you can make sure that you're not overscanning Wii too much. You're not going to overscan N64. You're not going to overscan Neo Geo. You're not going to overscan Dreamcast. All that stuff's not going to be like ridiculously cut off.
Well, I've been wanting to get a Wii, so maybe that's another reason to get one.
I think it's generally you can still find one for a decent price locally, right? Like some mom is throwing one out, or like you can grab one, you can get a deal on one. And composite cables are cheap, S-video cables are cheap, component cables are cheap, and it's still a GameCube, right? Like people are going hog wild trying to mod GameCubes to do stuff that the Wii just does, and I don't understand it. It's fine, but I mean, mostly probably because of the Game Boy player. They have a hard on for the Game Boy player, and they need to have that on, and I don't blame them for that because it's pretty awesome. But
but I feel like there's better ways to do Game Boy.
But for my use, the Wii like covers every single base as far as like getting all these little things done, and I'm pretty happy with the quality of the signal.
Yeah, definitely. I basically did the same thing with the PlayStation. I was thinking, okay, maybe I should get a PlayStation 2, and then after reading a lot, I realized it's going to be easier to just get the PS3, like the first model, that is retro compatible, and it was like much easier to get one, and much easier to get one set up and get the cables working right, and so yeah. I feel like it's the same thing with the Wii and the GameCube. Flying Dutchman. Yeah, this is probably the perfect monitor for kind of like NES or GBA or stuff like that. Maybe Master System. It's definitely like right there.
95%. Okay. If I do.
So we're going to go to the monoscope, obviously. And I'm going to go and get my ruler. So, be right back.
.2. So like 15. It's like maybe. I'm right about this. The JVC is asking for 95%. visible area. And if I think about that in terms of the monoscope pattern I have and what Sony asks for, because they ask for 15.75 out of 16 frames across on a real monoscope. I think 95% would be 15.25. So if you've seen my real monoscope, instead of the 1 hash mark on the sides, like being less than that, you would actually probably would scan all the way up to the 3, maybe not the 3. Think about that. But looking at the Super Nintendo, you should probably see 100% of the horizontal area.
Yeah, I feel like that's about right.
And so you got a little bit of H size to deal with and H center, and then you'll end up probably, well, shit. Well, it depends. Like, it depends on what you want to do. On Super Nintendo, do you want pillar bars on the side, or do you want to cut off some of the vertical area a little bit?
I feel like I'm mostly okay with cutting some of the horizontal. So getting a little bit of black on the horizontal.
Yeah, I think right now, is the top and bottom of the image pretty much at the edge of the screen?
Yes.
Like, are those corners, like like my corner squares, are they like pretty much touching the corners of the drawable screen?
A little bit. There's a little bit of like geometry, not too much. Like warping.
I don't think you have much of a geometry problem here at all.
Yeah. No, there's just.
But I think if you bring in your H size, and get your H center under control, I think you're gonna be fine.
Yeah. Okay, so deflection. This should be okay. So DA1 is horizontal position. So I see this is a little bit shifted to the left. Should we aim for the center first, or for size?
The Super Nintendo is going to be shifted to the left anyway.
Really?
Yes, because of the dot clock. The Super Nintendo is always slightly to the left of center, and Genesis is always slightly to the right of center. It gets worse when you it's going to be worse because you RGB modded this thing, right? Because I'm not sure where you're delivering your sync signal to, right? Normally,
it's going through the composite of processing of the monitor.
Right. So the composite processing required to split that signal, there's going to be a lag, right? Because you're delivering the RGB signals to the white balance chip probably like almost immediately, right?
Right.
And so the sync signal is getting delayed by all of the steps it has to go through inside the TV to get to the white balance chip, where the RGB signals are arriving there immediately.
Right.
I would say on RGB capable monitors, those would be synchronized better.
Yeah, like when you turn on and off the system, sometimes I notice like, okay, there's something there. Yeah. But but so far it's good. Cool.
I think if you're underscanning Super Nintendo, and by extension like Genesis like 320 by 224 stuff, if it's underscanned enough, you're just going to see the image move a little bit to the left or right. You're not going to cut anything off. And I think that's probably your best bet.
Right. And now
I would leave your vertical size alone, and just like we'll bring the horizontal size in until
I just noticed that we don't have control, at least on the menu, for horizontal size.
I bet horizontal size is a like
must be a
hex
pot.
key thing pot inside the monitor. So I think you're screwed on that one currently.
Let me see. I think I saw something like that,
I,
and it
I
was
saw it on the circuit, the like the printed wire board diagrams. Yeah,
it's
H size coil L502.
yeah. I think I might be able to get to it quickly.
Okay.
Let me check.
Okay.
Gonna have to get the fancy screwdriver, but
Dan, my favorite thing about video standards are when there's dozens of them. Oh man. Uh-oh. Rotating the monitor.
yeah. If I go completely silent and you see a flash, please call 911. I'm not sure they're going to come to Chile, but
Well, I don't know. Can we can Twitch contact the local authorities
well, they don't care about us.
or Discord? Maybe not. I don't know.
Oh, it's really. Let me see if I can get a light in here, so at least you can see something on screen.
Mm. Oh, there's a light.
It's going to be kind of a backlight situation, but okay. Okay. Shell is off.
Yeah, you should probably turn it off. Oh, I guess can you? Oh, can you get in there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's good. Oh, okay, I thought you were gonna have to like unhook everything to get the case off. All right. Well, that's interesting. You're gonna have to ID that coil. It's right next to the high voltage connector that goes to the
Yeah.
deflection yoke.
Oh crap.
There's like a signal board on one side, and it's between that signal board and that high voltage connector.
Yeah, I think I see it, but I'm not sure if it's that one. There's basically something like a pillar with a coil. I know it's a coil, so it should be.
Yeah,
that.
it's a coil. It's probably it might even be a hex if it's not a Phillips.
Yeah, it's actually a hex. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to get the hex stuff. Just a second.
I wonder. That's gonna be hard to adjust. I wonder what it's built. I wonder what it's made out of. I would hate for you to put something metal in there.
Yeah, that's actually. Well, I got a little bit of insulation on the hex. stuff. Um,
Yeah, but the hex itself can still short stuff out.
oh, yeah. Well, I can see it's plastic. Like the hex itself, it's
Hmm.
plastic. So
Oh, the
unless,
hex is plastic. That's good.
yeah, I don't think they're
Yeah.
going to be that able to make it look like it's plastic, but have a have something metallic in there. Okay, just a second.
Dutchman's talking about electrical tape, and I remember I was probably working on an N2. Well, N1. It was basically it started out life as an N1, and I went to go pick it up, and the guy had it was a 20 N1, but he also had a 14 N2, and he turned it on and it wouldn't come on, so he just gave me the 14 N2, and so I went through the trouble of uh, taking the RGB input panel off of the N2 and putting it into the 20 N1, and it wasn't that hard. There was like a couple of capacitors. Yeah, the N2U had RGB, but it was dead, and so I took the RGB input panel off of it and put it in a 20 N1, and you can just do that. The only thing that it's missing from the main board is some capacitors and resistors to deliver sync to the main processor on the main board. So I managed to pull that off. It wasn't hard. It was essentially a factory upgrade, because I used all the parts from the 14 to turn the 20 into an RGB unit, and that was fun. But I was working on it one day, and I was loosening. Not an N5. It goes from an N1 to an N2. Yeah, like the 1 and the 2 are the same chassis, and the 5 and the 6 are a different chassis. It's different software. I don't think that would necessarily work. 5s and 6s would be interchangeable, and 1s and 2s would be interchangeable. But I don't think they're interchangeable with each other. Not necessarily. But I needed to loosen the deflection yoke on it. I was gonna, probably working on dynamic convergence, where I was trying to just get the yoke kind of glued into place and looking good while I was working on convergence. And I was loosening the screw that holds the yoke into place with just a regular screwdriver, and the electron beam tried to arc out of the glass at my metal screwdriver while I was just unscrewing that screw. It wasn't any closer than that, but it was close enough to shut the whole TV down.
You know what? I think this is the same situation like the yoke. It's really close in the pad in there. So,
is there no way to? I guess obviously there might be some way to like sort of half take this apart and still be able to work on it, but you probably don't want to fool with that tonight.
I can probably.
I don't know. It's hard to tell whether or not you can loosen that backboard and lower it or something. I don't know. I don't know how these are laid out and what you can get away with. Like, I know how to do it on a Sony.
Yeah. Well, I think let's try this. So I think it's pretty close, like the H size. So I'm going to turn the monitor off, move it just a little bit, and see how it changes.
Yeah, if you have to turn it on and off and just make small adjustments, that's probably the way to go. Horizontal size is controlled by a coil inside the TV. There's no service menu or on-screen display adjustment for horizontal size because JVC, apparently.
Okay, so that's me turning it off. I haven't shorted anything.
Right.
Okay, now I have to figure out what's the right side of hex key.
Oh God.
Yeah, let's see. 2.5 maybe. Okay, let's move it. Sorry, turn it off. Okay. So that made it, I think it made it bigger.
No, he turned it the wrong way.
Yep. Okay, that was to my left, so let's go right. I'm not sure if that's the same. Huh. Yeah, maybe. This is not going to be easy. Yeah, because I'm not sure if it changed. It's not going to be easy, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd leave it alone then.
Yeah.
Huh. That's an interesting amount of overscan on that thing then.
Yep.
Huh. And where's H center then? That's the question.
Well, that's on the menu.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, you also don't really want to change it too much because if you turned on the Genesis right now, it would be cut off on the right side and not cut off on the left side. The exact opposite.
There we go. Crap. So hard to do this with one hand. Okay. So, deflection block. DA1. That should be horizontal position. Horizontal position. Yep. Okay, so default is +4. So, if we move it to +5, it's going to be a little bit more center. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. And maybe you end up playing with that, you know, depending on your input too. But
so what would you recommend?
well, if you can't change H size, the only thing you can do if you want to make sure it's sort of displaying things with the right shape would be to adjust your vertical size.
Right.
But that, I mean, you can do that with the big red square on the monoscope and a tape measure.
Right.
It's easier for me to eyeball it without a tape measure if we had more control over the horizontal size.
Right.
But oh, you got one of the rulers like I have.
Yeah, but I think it's
Nice.
not going to show
It probably
at
won't
all
show well.
on camera. You know what? It's pretty much spot on.
Congratulations.
Yep, that was easy.
And I mean, like the lines all look straight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for a sort of a non-Trinitron tube, that's as good as any I've ever seen. and probably better in some respects. So,
yeah. No, it looks great, and the conversions.
If your center line is straight, I don't know how many options there are, right?
Sorry.
But generally, if your center line straight and your edges are straight, then you're good.
Yeah.
I don't see any weird, barrel distortions or anything like that. So
yeah, there's just a tiny bit of like
Dustin's like, play the game. We could, just to be sure. I don't know if there's like linearity settings or something, but we should go do the the grid scroll test in horizontal and vertical directions to make sure the linearity's good.
Okay.
So I don't know if these like sort of double curved tubes have as many linearity problems as Sony tubes do.
We have vertical linearity adjustments. So should go to, you said the scrolling test, right?
I like the grid scroll test.
Where is that? Grid scroll
it's back
test.
to the video tests, yeah.
Okay.
There's the regular scroll test and then there's the grid scroll test. I mean, they're both fine.
Mm-hmm.
They both have their uses. I think maybe the grid scroll test might not show up on camera very well. And you can press different buttons to make it scroll up and down. That doesn't look bad. I don't see any deformations. It might be stretching a little bit at the top.
Yeah, I think it's stretching just a little bit. Very little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would go back to the regular scroll test then and put the the game in. There's a vertical game scroll.
Normally I use like this, but maybe there's a better one. Scroll test. Oh, okay. Okay, so very cool. Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of stretching on the top. Bottom is fine.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Of course.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I guess you can still hear me, but my headset died, so I have to change the audio path for my headphones.
Okay. Well, wait.
Where is it? Settings. It's not. Is that better? No. Can't hear anything. Oh, here. Let's plug that. Maybe that'll help. Alright, well, I can hear stuff now.
Hey.
That's better. There we go.
Cool. Yeah, so there's definitely a little bit of stretching, but I think I can...
The general principle is that if you adjust linearity, so that, I think the last time I did it just now, like the last couple days, I've been working on one of my monitors, and I was, just because it was easier to know for sure that the real monoscope had the true center line, I used that, but you could use the SNES monoscope. You compare the distance from the center line to the top of, like, say, the red box, and then the distance from the center line to the bottom of the red box, and they have to be the exact same distance. So the idea is that in relation to the center line, that the top and the bottom of the red box are the same amount of space, right?
Right.
And when you adjust the linearity, it'll throw the vertical center off, but that's fine. What you want is for the top and bottom to be the same distance from center, and then after that's right, then you use vertical center to fix the centering.
Right. Okay, I can do that. So. This is going to be hard with the camera on front.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Oh, I know. This is going to be easier.
I think you measured the top of the screen instead of the top of the red box.
What? Sorry, didn't get that.
Oh, when you were measuring the bottom red line, and then you moved it to the top, it wasn't anywhere near the top.
Yeah, it's super
of the
far.
Red box. Yeah, yeah, okay. Just making sure we saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I moved this way too much because it was here, -2.
There you go. Yeah. See how that works?
That's actually pretty close.
Vertical linearity, Dutchman. It's generally what the setting's called, and it's if it's wrong, it'll look like squares, like say on an RPG, grid or something like that. When it scrolls up and down, it'll start to look like they shrink and expand if it's set wrong.
So I think that's the best it's going to look.
Okay.
In terms of like the proportions.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can eyeball it if you're just running the vertical scroll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did that and it looked good, but it was then I measured it and it was way off.
It was interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe there's something else going on in there, but let's take a look. Just going to double check the ratio.
Dutch is asking if we ran the color test, and yes, we ran the full tilt boogie. You see the CIE diagram on the left hand side. That's all 80 measurements from the full tilt boogie. And you can see that they're close. They're pretty close. It's pretty good. It's really hard to argue with those results.
So I think I actually can give it 1 or 2 clicks on the vertical.
Yeah, vertical size.
Yeah, let's do that just for the heck of it. I will have to probably redo once I get to move the coil, but where is the... Okay, so vertical size is DO2. Okay. Well, I need to measure the big one just in case.
Yeah, I mean, Lord knows, and it should be the same as the little square. It's the same proportion. Generally,
Yep, and it is.
if you get it, when I measured, if I get it within a 1/16 of an inch, left to right, top and bottom, then I'm usually pretty happy.
Yeah. No,
Depending on how fine the settings are on that particular deflection circuit, you can get it more or less perfect.
Yeah, but this looks pretty good, to be honest.
And the linearity actually might behave better when you have that relationship correct, right? Because maybe you had the vertical size compressed too much. It was actually throwing off. Like maybe it might actually be easier to fix the linearity knowing now that you have those other settings more correct.
Yeah, there's a lot less squishing, I feel like. Or stretching, rather. Okay. Let's see in game. What's the button? Okay, there you go. Yeah, there's just a tiny bit, so maybe I can push it 1, 2 clicks, something like that.
That should scroll slower than that. You should be able to change the speed of the scrolling.
Like that, maybe?
There you go. Sometimes that helps. You can see the deformations, the more subtle changes when it's slower. Hard for us to see it because the camera's only catching so many frames.
Yeah. Okay, so that's stretching. Is it no, that's the center. I'm changing a whole different thing. Okay. So like this feels like the most consistent across the screen. Let's see how
Yeah, that's what matters.
Yeah. I guess let's take a quick look in here. Yeah, that definitely looks really, really consistent.
Good.
So
yeah, another good test is my favorite test is Super Metroid. If you go to the original escape route from Metroid 1 with like the sort of abandoned, destroyed version of it in Super Metroid.
Right.
Because there's some parallax layers in the background and the walls on the sides. When you just have sort of a clear space where there's no space pirates like giving you a hard time, and you just jump up and down, you can feel like, if there's linearity problems, if you have sort of like barrel distortion on the sides, like if it starts hourglassing, it's way more obvious for some reason in that scene in Super Metroid than it is. Are you? I can't tell if you're.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Getting your midpoint in the same place when you move it up. It looks like you're, like measuring from the top of the middle line, and then when you move it to the top, you're still measuring it from the top of the middle line.
I think I'm using.
It's hard for me to see from the camera, right? Like I can't tell the angle.
Right. So.
So like move that down, right?
So now I'm on the top of the middle line. Now I should be on the bottom.
Well, I would say try to aim for the middle, because the middle line and the middle horizontal and vertical line, those are two lines thick.
Okay.
So there's actually a center, and there's a center point in between those two lines that you could probably try to aim for at least.
Right. Okay. So
Hard for me to ask. It's like, hey, do this really fine measurement with a camera in the way in the dark.
yeah, there's like
I mean, it's
3
such
or 4
a
lines.
big enough
Mhm.
it's a big enough mistake that it's clearly like something's up.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
I don't
it's when I change the linearity, it
Yeah.
causes that. Maybe if I move the vertical center, something. Maybe I'm not sure. Let's.
Well, it's hard. Well, because the Super Nintendo isn't a full, like 240 lines. It doesn't occupy enough of the sort of real estate of the full NTSC signal, so trying to adjust the linearity might be a problem. Where, like, if you did that with like a real pattern generator or even something higher res like a Wii or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I don't have
You might be picking
vertical
up.
position. Like
You don't have vertical position?
Yeah, the menu does nothing.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, maybe it is because of the RGB mod. I don't know
Alright.
why it would be, but
Dan's out. Peace out, Dan. Thanks for hanging
Dan.
out.
Thank you for stopping by.
Keep our nonsense in check over here. It's good.
Okay, so vertical center. Yeah. Okay.
Is it not changing?
Yep. Nope. It's not doing anything. Let's check. I guess this is
I don't know.
vertical size. Vertical size is working. And this is side pin. And
I don't know.
that actually looks like vertical size, not side pin.
Oh, is it like the service menu wrong or the service manual wrong?
Yeah, it might be the service manual might be wrong.
Sweet.
Yep, those are switched. It seems like so.
Alright.
This is vertical. So this is vertical.
Yeah, there's the size. Clearly.
Yeah. That was a +1. And so the A4 is doing nothing. Yep, that's funny. And the A5, I know it's so the A2, what is the A2 doing? So it's like we have two vertical sizes.
Nice.
Yep.
Congratulations, you have a dilemma.
Yep.
Oh no, wait a minute. Oh, on the main board, there's something called the V-center switch, S401.
Oh.
So you may not even have a fine vertical center setting.
Oh.
It may just be like a 3-position switch, where it just will throw it one way or another. So, yeah. I don't know what to tell you on that one.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm just going to worry about the ratio for now.
Yeah, I would worry about just the ratio, and if it's scrolling smooth, I'd just forget about it. Just leave it alone.
So, since I moved stuff, I'm going to recheck this quickly. Yeah, that seems right. Okay. So, just to have some kind of happy ending here, I guess I should put some game on. And let's see.
Yes.
Let's do Super Metroid.
Dutchman's been waiting for some gameplay here.
Yeah. Cool. So let's get the menu off. Well, Dutchman, since you've been waiting, maybe you should choose the game. Any requests? Otherwise, I'm going to go to Super Metroid. Super Metroid is good. Okay, cool. Confirmation that Super Metroid is best game ever. Oh, that's Super Mario World. I hit when the Mister does that with the double line. We should turn the lights off.
Yeah, and I don't know if your camera ISO is a little high or something. There you go, that's better.
Yeah,
there
just
you go.
brought it down. Well, I guess I should just leave the demo playing. Now let's play. Oh, but the intro is so long and you can't skip it. Can you skip the intro on this game? Can't remember.
The intro mission? No.
No, like the whole blah blah blah.
Oh,
last time
right.
in Metroid.
Right now, I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, let's look at some pretty images. Well, it definitely the red looks awesome. Well, and to be honest, it looks great all around.
Yeah, it looks pretty clean.
Yep. I will definitely be doing posting a couple pictures like side to side with the 150 HD.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it looks better, actually. Like calibration wise, it looks better. Which is very surprising. Like this one, like this small one is just, I think, like 300 lines, something like that. But yeah,
I mean, not that Super Nintendo doesn't look good, but like those little 300 line sets like could look pretty dope for like NES and Master System and stuff like that.
yeah. Yeah, no, and obviously when we have like a smaller size monitor, those 300 lines look better.
It's still that's a lot of information for a tiny set.
Yeah. I'm actually planning to get the 19-inch one. It's not the 1950, it's the 1900 SU, I think. It's a little bit older model, but it has onboard RGB, so I don't have to get a card, which is good.
Yeah.
And it's a more curved tube, so that is also nice, like having that kind of look to it. Oh my god, yeah, this looks amazing. Let me see how it looks in the camera.
It looks pretty good on camera.
Yeah, it's like the blues are a little bit blown out on camera, but no, it looks amazing. Can I pass the sound into this? Yeah, you should be able to hear that now. Yeah, this looks amazing. Well, I guess, Kid, you shouldn't be able to hear the sound of the game, but the stream will have the sound.
Yeah, I can't hear it, but I was still waiting. I was like, huh?
Yeah. I can end the sound effects. Pew, 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 pew. Ooh. Let's see the mode 7. That should bring up any kind of problems out.
Come on, Ridley, get out here.
Yeah, come on, Ridley. Hit me. There we go. It's surprising, the numbers look very sharp.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're not overdriving the white point.
Mhm.
You know, the circuit can draw a nice clean line.
That looks good. Yeah. This turned awesome. Yeah, like this. I'm very happy how this turned out.
SMB2, you mean Super Metroid Brothers 2?
Super Mario Brothers. Super Mario Brothers 2. On the you want it on the NES, the original, not original, or the Mario All Stars 2? The Mario All Stars version. Wow, the map. It's super clear and super sharp. I'm really amazed. Original. Okay, let's do that. No, that's not the NES. NES, where are you? Oh no, I don't have the NES in here. Crap. Do I have the Neo Geo? Neo Geo, just to give it a quick test. How the
What's the Neo Geo game? Yeah. No, not
that is going to be a good overscan test.
What's that game?
For
One of the shooters, one of the scrolling.
Oh right.
Like the ex-Irem guys that made one of those great scrolling shooters for Neo Geo. I can never remember the stupid name.
Well, I know Aero Fighters looks really nice, but not sure if it's the same one that you're thinking about. But
no, it's like a sci-fi space shooter. I mean, you play it and you're like, this is obviously made by the same guys that made R-Type.
Oh, there's so much that kind of looks like that. No, let's go first stage. But actually, yeah, like underscan looks good. Like I can see all of the all of the stuff that I should be seeing.
Yeah, I think it depends on the game too, because the Neo. Well, I mean, it depends on this. Is this are these MVS? Is this an MVS core or an AES core?
You can. I think you can use it for both.
Okay, because they have different dot clocks. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like AES can draw up to 320 across, and it's a near square dot clock. So it's very close to the full NTSC image. Most systems can't do it. It's part of why the stupid AES cost so much, because it was one of the only computers powerful enough to actually draw the full area.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think until like CPS 3? I don't think CPS 2 could do that, right?
Well, I mean, arcade monitors are different and weird. So, like, the gloves are off for that sort of thing.
Right.
It'd be hard for me to gauge, you know, like, especially because I think even the arcade hardware had sort of its own settings, too. I know it generated its own test patterns and stuff. So I don't know how much of the arcade hardware versus the arcade monitor calibration stuff, like how that worked together. It's a completely different ballgame. It's not something I have had any chance to experiment with. Mostly because those stupid arcade monitors have no safety features whatsoever.
Yeah.
You want to talk about dying, messing around with tubes? You're talking about arcade monitors, not PVMs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely made that joke before. It's like you practically have to like make out with the flyback transformer to get a shock on a PVM, but like if you look at an arcade monitor cross-eyed, it'll shock you.
Yeah. And I think like those monitors that they used on casinos were also very dangerous. At least I heard that. This looks great.
Oh, I tell you what my like definitive Neo Geo game is The Last Blade 2.
Last Blade 2. Okay, let's play that. Yeah, Garo, I use it because I know that it's a little bit like it goes over
It uses a higher res mode, yeah.
Yeah. Last Blade. Last Blade 2 or Last Blade 1?
The Last Blade 2.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I remember this. Yeah, this was beautiful. I think I remember seeing one like arcade machine of this one.
I used to have it.
Really?
When I lived in Kentucky before I moved to Chicago and had to like basically give away or sell half of almost everything I owned in order to like make room, and you know, going down from a 2,200 square foot house to a 900 square foot apartment, like
Wow.
I had to get rid of some stuff. And one of them, I had a full size original MVS 425 cabinet, so it was a 4-slot board and a 25-inch monitor. And
Wow.
you know, like I got it for free, basically, like some shady dude, you know, like he had to like leave town or something, basically, like before the cops got him or something. He's like, "Hey, you want this Neo Geo?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so I came and got it from his like business. You know,
Wow.
had to take it down a flight of stairs. You know, it was a total nightmare.
Yeah.
Loaded it into my Volvo. You know, drove it home. You know, pulled it out, got it into my basement, plugged it in, turned it on, and nothing happened. It was broken. I was like, that son of a bitch. Gave me a broken Neo Geo. But I actually had like an acquaintance that did like circuit repair stuff for like manufacturing, you know.
Right.
So he had all the tools. And so I took it to him. I took him the actual MVS board, and he found a couple of bum chips on it and replaced them, and he got it up and running, and it cost me a couple $100. And it
awesome.
ran fine for like a few years until I had to like rebuild the power supply. and then it was fine. And then he ended up buying it off of me when I moved out of town. I was looking to get rid of it, and he had done all that work on it, and so I sold it to him, and I think he still has it. And I gave him the machine. I had about 40 or 50 games.
Really?
Like
wow.
original cartridges, and they were good ones too.
Oh my god!
I actually kept a handful of them.
They're going for crazy money right now. The cartridges.
Yeah, I think I ended up selling. I ended up like later on selling a bunch of stuff on eBay, but it was still years ago, so it wasn't nearly the kind of prices that are going now. But I sold some of them to the Galloping Ghost, which is the big arcade here in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's now sort of last man standing. It's like the largest arcade in the world now, I think, at this point.
Really? Wow. Well, yeah, almost all of the Segas on Japan have went down.
Yeah, they've all closed. Yeah, so the Galloping Ghost has 600 arcade machines.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's huge.
But it's great because you pay like $20 and you can stay there all day.
Really?
Everything's on free. Everything's on free play for $20.
That's awesome.
And you can they stamp your hand. You can leave and go get something to eat.
Wow.
Like at a restaurant nearby, and then come back and play some more. Like it's close. It's on the other side of like the Chicagoland area for me. It still takes me an hour to drive there, right? So sometimes if I want to stay there all night and like work on some game, like they have high scores on every machine. So they'll usually have the posted world record for that machine. And then they'll have the house records, right? And then some people will come to the Galloping Ghost specifically to live stream if they're going to go for like a world's record, like a high score or something like that, you know?
Wow. That's interesting. I had no idea.
They are, yeah, so they'll like host those world record attempts for certain games. So I have got it in my head because apparently I think very highly of myself. That I am going to get into the top 3 because it's usually just the top 3 scores are posted on the card above the machine, right? So it'll be whatever the number 1 score is, either at the location or in the world, and then there's 2 other scores, right? It's just the top 3. And I've decided, I think, with a little bit of practice, I can get 3rd place on Strider.
That's not an easy game.
No, I've done the calculations based on the scores I've been able to get practicing. That I would have to be able to beat the game start to finish twice on 1 credit in order to get 3rd place.
Oh my god.
And so far I can get to the final stage on 1 credit. Once. But I don't think anybody else has tried, so we'll see. And it only counts if you do it there. So,
right.
if you want to beat me to it, you're going to have to come to Chicago.
Well, maybe I will go to Chicago. Last year, I was on New York, and I was looking for some arcades, and I found some on Chinatown. And those were nice, but I was expecting like much bigger, and I was a little bit disappointed. Like it's supposed to be New York, right? One of the biggest like arcade places, supposedly, like fighting game scene.
I don't know about that. Well, I mean, yeah, like the sort of underground scene, but like in its heyday, in the arcade's peak, you know, in the 80s and the 90s, every single manufacturer was headquartered in Chicago.
Oh, okay. Now it makes sense.
So, because Chicago was the main transportation hub for the entire country, if you were manufacturing in Chicago, it was the easiest place to load stuff onto trucks, trains, and planes to ship out to the whole country. So, pretty much all the arcade manufacturers were in Chicago. And even if you were a Japanese developer that was making console games and they had offices in like Washington or Los Angeles or something like that, their arcade department was still in Chicago. And they're all gone now. But
Yeah,
I
that's
think all that's left really is a place called Speedy's. They used to be the tech department for um, Namco in America.
okay.
So if you were a arcade operator and you had a Namco machine that broke, and say like there was something wrong with the board, and you had to mail it back to Namco, and these guys fixed it and sent it back to you.
Okay.
But then when Namco folded their arcade operations in America, like their tech department basically spun off into their own as a sort of like repairing of things, various things. So they're
Like,
still around,
yeah.
as far as I know, but they don't work on CRTs, so they weren't on the list for like where does Keith want to work in the future?
Right. That's interesting. Yeah. Well, sadly, here in Chile, almost all arcades have died, and there was a really nice place here in Santiago, which is like the main city in Chile.
Yeah.
That it was called Dream Game, something like that. So it was a place in the downtown where you can go and pay like a couple bucks and you got free play, and most of the FGC people would gather around there.
Yeah.
And it was like a nice place, a really nice place, and it went down just very recently, like a couple months ago, because basically COVID just was
The lockdowns just made it impossible to.
completely impossible.
Yeah.
And well, on the 90s there were they were called Diana games here, and they had a lot of really good machines, like really awesome stuff, and I'm not sure how they did it, but they, like, for example, Mortal Kombat 3, when I was a wee lad, I remember seeing that huge machine, like the actual, like, proper Midway big machine in there. Same for Killer Instinct and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then they obviously went to the whole like DDR thing and that kind of stuff, and they ended up like fading away
for a while.
Yeah, so it's very sad. I was actually going to go. I had a month-long trip to Japan schedule on 2020, like March of 2020, and
maybe next year.
Yeah, maybe next year. But I really wanted to see the arcades, and now it's not going to be. Like, there's still some, but it's not going to be the same.
Right.
So
yeah, it's gonna be hard. Like,
sad.
Even the stuff that I fantasized about finding in Japan someday, like,
yeah,
I'm not gonna find it if I go. Like, maybe I'll find what like a PC 8801 version of Snatcher. Yeah, maybe. Like, I have the MSX2 version, but like the 8801. I just think it's cool because it's on 5 1/4 floppy. It's like, it's not like I'm gonna play it, right? I just add it to my Kojima. It's like I sold off almost everything at this point, but I kept all of my Hideo Kojima games. I have a very, like, it's not Artemio level, but it's not bad.
Okay,
like, and I got some neat stuff because I had some friends that worked in the industry that could go to E3 that could actually run into him.
Oh, that's nice.
So I actually have his like for like not his fashionable business card, his real business card, the one that his secretary would get.
Oh.
So but back in his Konami days, I have a version of that, or whatever. And like some of the promo stuff they gave out at E3, like the pamphlets or whatever for like whatever various like Metal Gear game was coming out. Like there's these big fancy like slick pamphlets that they were giving out, as part of the swag or whatever. I got some of that stuff. But
that's nice. So what is your favorite Kojima game? Is it Death Stranding?
No, I have not. Actually, Death Stranding was one of those things that I started, and I'm like, this is really cool, and then I just like lost track of it. And by the time I got back to like, oh, I should probably play Death Stranding, they're like, oh, hey, why don't you buy the PS5 version? I was like, okay, I'll buy the PS5 version, but I'm not going to play it again until I do. So
Yeah.
it's just been on the back burner. It's like one of those things. It's like it's gonna go on sale. I'll buy it then. It's fine. I've already bought it once. Well, technically I didn't buy it. I won it in a contest.
Oh.
Some of my friends, back home, we usually try to get together,
Mm-hmm.
play video games, like either around Thanksgiving or Christmas. Like when everyone's home for the holidays, that sort of thing, and we can see each other. And so we'll have we'll set up certain types of games on the big screen, and then I'll have we'll have the Dreamcast with 2 arcade sticks on a VGA monitor, and then a couple of other systems on a PVM, and a couple of other CRTs, and a projector with something else, and whatever. Just a bunch of people having a party playing all kinds of video games. But since some of them are industry guys, they can bring swag home from work for the holidays, and we'll use that as prizes for contests.
Oh, nice.
And so we had a Mario Kart tournament, and shout out to my friend Rob, who thinks he's better than me at Mario Kart. But I absolutely murdered everybody in the face and won a copy of Death Stranding
Nice.
by ruthlessly embarrassing everyone else in Mario Kart.
That's funny. So, yeah, I think. So, I think I was around like 12 or 13, something like that, when Metal Gear Solid came out for the PS1.
Yeah.
And that was like my game for a long time.
Metal Gear Solid is special. Now, I have a different perspective on it.
Mhm.
I mean, it's special in and of itself.
Mhm.
But that came out in 1998.
Mhm.
So I would have been 21.
Oh, okay.
So when Metal Gear came out for the NES in America in 1987, I was 10 years old.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that was your Metal Gear.
Metal Gear was like my favorite NES game, like without question. And so I thought about that game ever since.
Right.
So Metal Gear Solid was a big deal for me because that was like I saw that game. I'm like, it's exactly what Metal Gear was like when I was dreaming.
Right.
The Metal Gear I had in my dreams. That's what Metal Gear Solid was.
Mhm.
And so it was like basically perfect.
Wow. Nice. Yeah, no, I mean, those times were like that, right? You didn't have like the internet. You had a lot of time, and you just sat there and played the same game. And when you weren't playing or weren't like allowed to play anymore, you would just fantasize about the game or the things that could happen. And there's always that bullshit talk with your friends, like, no, this I assure you this happened. Like, I don't know, I got the red ninja on Mortal Kombat 1, or I don't know, the nude code for Tomb Raider or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, those were very different times.
Yeah, it was nice. All right, it's 7:30 here.
Yeah.
So I think I have to stop.
Yeah, no, we've been going for a long time. So.
Yeah. Dutchman's like, did you have any candy caps? I did not have any candy caps. So I'll answer this last question. When, like I said, I had that MVS machine, that 425. So I was a member of the Neo Geo forums at the time because it was relevant, right? Like I was trying to make sure, like, I knew everything I needed to know about taking care of the machine, etc., etc. Like, what are the good games? What are they worth? Like, what should I be keeping an eye out for? That sort of thing. And that was about the time. I feel like it was the Neo Geo forums and like Mups forums. I think they got together. This was years and years and years ago. And some arcade had gone out of business in Japan, and like they bought all of the candy caps from that defunct arcade and loaded them onto a shipping container and had them shipped across the ocean and dropped off in San Francisco. And if you had bought in on it, you just had to drive to San Francisco and grab your candy cap. And I was so close to actually buying into that. That had to have been 15 years ago. that they did that. And I remember the pictures, the shipping container and people like picking up their machines like, after it happened. I was like, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I wish. Well, I live in an apartment. It has good space.
Not gonna have room for a candy cab.
Yeah, no.
Big 29-inch CRT. You'll never get it up the stairs.
Well, I almost broke my back when I had to drag the 30-inch like consumer Trinitron set.
Oh yeah.
You
got to get those those appliance straps. Have you ever seen movers move like a refrigerator? They got these things that go over their shoulders.
No, I haven't seen those.
It's like a harness, like two guys like wearing this harness, and these straps kind of go over their shoulders, and it goes underneath the refrigerator or whatever it is that's heavy that you have to carry. And so, like, they're carrying it. Like, you're standing up and you can lift it and carry it around with your leg strength and not with your arms or your back. And I would say that's the only way to move a big heavy CRT. Like, it's not. And that would even be hard because of stairs and stuff like that. It wouldn't necessarily work as well as other things. But I would never, like, I pick up my 2530 to move sometimes. I regret it every time I pick it up. It's 119 pounds. No. Like, and the plastic is getting old enough that even when I lift it, it starts to groan in ways that I'm very concerned about.
Yeah. Thankfully, I had my brother help me, so it wasn't that bad, and we made it fit on the elevator. So that was good, but still, my back was sore for like 3 days.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm glad this turned out well. It looks great. I think you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I will definitely have a photography session here with this and post some really nice stuff. I will also try to... I will definitely post this video on YouTube or something because I feel like it's going to be very useful for people to have this as reference, and maybe I will have time to edit it, but it's been 3.5 hours, so it's going to be hard.
Yeah, we'll probably trim that down to just the essentials.
Yeah, definitely. But anyways, Kid, like, thank you so much for being up for this, and it's been great to have your help. Yeah. Me too. And I'm sure the people that came in here were too. So thank you so much, and it's been great talking to you, and I hope we might do something like this again sometime.
Yeah,
thank you.
All right. Good night.
Good night. Say good night, Kid, on the chat.
Good night, chat.
Cool. So
I guess I got it.
Yeah.
No, I don't need that. I just need to go back to Discord and log out of that. There we go.
Yeah.
Like, how many different programs does it take to talk to somebody on the internet? 4.
As many as you want.
Yeah, right? All right. Have a good night.
You too. See ya.
Bye.
Okay. So, thank you everyone so much for coming to see this really nerdy, geeky thing. And again, thank you to Keith for helping and being here and sharing his knowledge and some awesome stories. So tomorrow I think I will be streaming some more Rondo of Blood. And it's going to be a CRT stream. I do this thing where I like to stream the CRT screen, and this JVC here is definitely going to be in there along with the main 150 CG. So if you guys want to come around and say hi and play some Rondo of Blood with me, that would be awesome. Thank you so much, and thank you, by the way, Flying Dutchman, thank you so much for all of the questions and all of that, and I'm so sorry I couldn't like answer more of them, and we couldn't talk about more of them, it was because on my current setup, I have my back turned to the monitor where I have the chat, so I couldn't see much all of the time, because I was calibrating the monitor. But thank you so much. You're awesome, dude, and hope I can we get to see you again around here. Same for everyone. So again, thank you, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day or night or whatever. I don't know, section of the 24-hour period you're in. That's it. See ya.